What's good? What's good, everybody? This is Isaac.
And this is George, and you are listening to Café con Podcast.
Damn, we literally did that 4 times already. We had to restart, and we still suck.
But anyways,
so, thank you guys for listening. Number one, first and foremost, we appreciate you guys. And then this episode, we had the pleasure of sitting down with Odel. I'm not even going to try and say his last name. I think it's Ceballos, so I'm sorry if I butchered your last name. But he's an actor friend that I've met out here in Los Angeles. He's an author as well. He has a book out that he talks about that you guys can find. We'll have the link in the description. But this episode is really enlightening. It was just a lot about his story, kind of coming from where he came, his discipline, and also just understanding ego versus how it's going to serve you and not serve you. So it was a lot of fun. It's a 3-hour episode, so sit tight, grab your cafecito, and get ready for a good talk.
Enjoy, boys and girls. Talk to you soon.
This is the Café con Podcast.
That the wedding is not about you, it's about your parents. So it's parents feeling that they will be celebrated because of the child. So
wow,
that's how much they want to be involved. And hey, good,
that's interesting, okay. Bro. That's interesting. We took the complete opposite approach. We were like, because mi suegra quería invitar a como 50 gente que no sabíamos. We didn't even know them, right? And Sky was the one that was like, if I don't know them, they're not coming.
Yeah.
And yeah. You know, that's like that was her approach. I mean, I told you we had a small wedding, but it was definitely one of those things that she was of the mindset of like, if you didn't have a vested interest in our relationship, then it didn't make sense for you guys to come to our wedding, because it was kind of like, you know, if I don't know you, why are you going to come over here, type of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's people that are going to be invited that they spend with us a week, but it was a significant time, and they provided like a landmark of memories that we would never forget. There's people invited that I have seen once in 25 years. Salud. That they live in Cancun, so they're Cuban, moved to Cancun, friends of my family, and they received us in Cancun. They went above and beyond when we got to Cancun, and we spent a month in Mexico, and they made it so homey for us.
Yeah.
Just because they were there. That's the reason why they're invited. The rest of the people, Brianna is a social butterfly. There will be people that I've never met in my life, and she will call them her friends. She would say, "This is my friend, so and so," and I have in 5 years of relationship never seen this person. Never seen this person.
Okay, so how would you label a friend? What would you consider someone to be a friend?
No, don't even ask me that. I am look, I have a very hardcore definition of friend.
Hold on. Yo,
what did you send the email? I can't find it.
Hold on, I'll send it to you again. It was the second one. Just know that it was the second email that I sent to, because I sent out 2 emails. All right. I sent it yesterday at 1:05, but I'll resend it.
to George Knox, right?
Yeah,
Okay, let me check.
I just resent it. I just poured out the coffee too, but we're just chilling, bro. Just hop in whenever you can. All right. All right, bro. Okay, go now. Back to your definition of friends because I'm actually very interested. Sorry about that. He's coming in now.
No, it's okay.
I'm super interested in hearing what your definition is.
I heard a story about Quincy Jones when Quincy Jones was already established, already a big deal, and one of his friends haven't seen him for I think 3 or 4 days, and no one has heard about Quincy in those 3 or 4 days. So one of his friends comes home, knocks on the door, and nobody's answering the door. His car is there, but nobody's coming to the door. He's thinking Quincy has to be here. His friend grabs an axe, axes his way through the front door, and finds Quincy in a bathroom, almost about to overdose. And Quincy Jones was addicted to drugs, and nobody knew. None of his friends. It was a secret. But his friend saved his life because of that. And I tell this to everybody that asks me what do I consider a friend? I'm going to axe down a door for you. I expect nothing less. I need to know that when shit hits the fan, you're there. No excuses. No, oh my God, I also have my problems. No. You're there. You have to be there. And as you know, in America, it's very difficult to go through a storm in your life.
Yeah.
You have a more an easier way to go handle things yourself, other than our countries, right? In South American countries, third world countries. But it isn't until you actually are in a storm, in a very cloudy day, that your friendships get tested. Because if my friends are always there when I'm having fun. Hey George,
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
You guys hear me well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, it was in my spam for some reason. That was weird.
It's all good, man.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab the cafecito, okay?
All right. So you're saying your friends are always there when what?
Well, I don't know until we have a problem, until I have a problem.
Yeah,
right?
for
Because
sure.
if you've been tested in my life before, most likely you will still be there because you've been tested. The harsh waters already tested us. We came out of it together.
Right.
But when you build relationships here in the States, and you have friends here in the States, you're kind of always in a good scenario, right? Because what you lose your job, but you can get another job, right?
Yeah.
You go through circumstances that are difficult, maybe the death of a relative or somebody close. That's a real storm, right? That's a real
Yeah,
difficult
bro.
circumstance. That's why Brianna mentions, oh, my friend so and so. I tell them, what storm did you guys went through together? What was it that this person was awarded the word friend?
So what's her definition of friend? Like, what does she say to you when you say that?
It's more loose. It's more. Oh, this is my friend from Israel that we went through. What's it called? The
Birthright.
birthright.
Is she from out here? She was raised out here? I think also, I mean, this is something that you and I can speak to more. I mean, Georgia's in Miami, but it's different the way you make friends out here. I don't know if we talked about this already. It's different the way that you make friends out here versus the way that you make friends in like Miami or East Coast. At least what I've found. The way that I've found, the way that you come across people, it's more so in like, I had somebody tell me this when I first moved out here. You make a friend with somebody here by, it's very transactional, right? So it's like, what can I do for you? What can they do for me type of thing? Versus on the East Coast, it would be more so along the lines of like, oh, we have similar interests. You know, let's kick it. Fuck yeah. You like basketball? So do I. Let's go fucking play some basketball. You know what I mean? It's different out here. And I feel like specifically to LA, because there's so many people that are trying to do something. So many people they come out here trying to get this thing, and they're trying to do something. So they're naturally trying to find people to help them along the way to do that thing. So I think that's it's interesting because I don't remember who it was, dude. Who were we talking to? Just what you were talking about triggered something. Somebody was talking about friends. Maybe it was me and Scott. I don't remember. But it was something along the lines of that, where it was, oh, this is my friend, this is my friend, this is my friend, this is my friend, this is my friend. And I had kind of the same question, which is like, what are your guidelines? Like, what's your baseline for what a friend really is? Because, you know, when you're saying all that stuff, George, actually, when shit hit the fan. So I've known him since I was 4. We went to college together. Well, he went to Full Sail. I went to UCF, which is right next to each other. But there was one day in particular that whatever, I don't care about talking about it, but I almost got into some shit with some cops. And long story short, I was on the verge of possibly getting in trouble with cops. And George was there, literally was right there next to me for 2 hours. And it was like crazy, bro, because it's one of those things that because that shit's fucking, when it's serious and something could possibly happen with law enforcement, but like legitimately happen with law enforcement, and then you see people who are there next to you that are kind of holding it down for you, that are like on your side, I'm like, oh, all right, I know I can trust you. You know, if some shit goes down, I know you have my back, I have your back, because we came out of it luckily on the other side fine. But it was just one of those things that was like, oh, this is a storm, like you were saying.
Yeah, literally.
You know, this shit's for real, bro. And death does that too. Death is another big thing. You know, I mean, we've been in each other's lives long enough that we've seen, unfortunately, a lot of people come and go. You know, both old and young, and that's something that it's weird to deal with, man. Especially when people are young. Cuando son jovencitos y se mueran, bro, it's weird when they go. It's just strange. You know? It's a weird thing, dude. All right. Are you set up, George Knox?
I'm ready to go.
Let's ride. You don't have your mic today? Oh, okay. That's why.
I think it's low. I think it's low. Now, George?
You sound super far away.
How about now?
It sounds a little better.
A little better.
Talk into it.
Test.
That's much better.
Okay.
But I hear a little feedback. I can hear a little feedback on it.
How about now?
That's much better.
Okay.
Much better. Oh, no, I still hear feedback. By the way, I did the day 5 día 5 leg workout yesterday. Wow. I'm not lifting heavy because I want to like make sure that I do it right.
Yeah.
Holy shit, bro.
Yeah, it's tough. No.
Wow.
It's still feedback.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't hear shit you're saying.
Wait, now I cannot hear anybody. What happened? Oh, hi.
Hold on. That's because my mic does this sometimes.
I hear you now.
Yeah, I know. It does this sometimes, though. I like Reddited it and everything, but sometimes my mic will just stop working. I just have to click it again to turn it on. Bro, all right, so you're how do you feel about having a big wedding? How do you feel about that? What are your thoughts on it?
Is it better?
It's just
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Look, I'll be more excited if my friends weren't scattered across the globe without papers, being fucking immigrants, all of them.
Fuck.
So they not, I cannot have my core group of friends get together for a special occasion and then everybody just goes their merry ways. It's impossible. So to me, it would be an exercise on being as present as possible with as many people as possible. Brianna's gonna have a blast because Brianna's a social butterfly. And I'm just going to, I will probably be happy that my mom and that my mom is dancing and my dad has caraculos sitting on a table somewhere. I'll be happy. I'll be happy with that. Ahora no escucho yo a nadie. ¿Qué está pasando?
I don't know what the fuck just happened, bro. This fucking Zoom just literally closed out on me.
It just farted.
Yeah, it literally just farted. It was like, okay, hold on, I gotta connect my mic. Fucking A, bro.
We have time, no problem. Well,
All right,
I have time. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah. Oh, I have plenty of time
I have
too.
time,
I always block out like 2.5 hours for this, just
Test,
because
test.
it could take half an hour, it could take
Test.
3 hours. It don't matter to me, however long it's gonna take. Yeah, bro, I hear you, man. I think that are you guys gonna do it here in Cali, or are you guys gonna do it somewhere else?
No, here.
Do you have a place already? Because it's coming up, dog. That shit's coming up fast.
It's I'm not involved. I'm not involved in it. I don't know what's. I don't know.
Wait.
what it is.
Wait. What do you mean? What do you mean you're not?
Dude,
what do you mean you're not involved?
I'm 0% involved. That was one of my stipulations. I'm gonna be 0% involved. I don't care about the color of the flowers. I don't care what it's going to be. I don't care if it is open space, closed space. Don't care who's the DJ. Don't care what. I know what food we're serving. Russian food. It's like,
Wait. So what do you care about? What do you care about?
I care that the DJ plays a couple of reggaeton songs
Mm-hmm.
and salsa,
Yeah.
and that's about it. That's it. That's all I care.
That shit's
Don't
funny.
care what type of alcohol is
Bro,
gonna be
you're
served.
a brave man. You are what every husband wants to say for his wedding. I don't give a shit. You plan it. Just tell me when and where I have to show up, and I'll be there. That's all that I care about.
And constantly, Brianna's asking me, "But what do you think?" I said, "Brianna, whatever you think, I think. Whatever you are assuming, I am assuming. That's it."
So funny. God
Yeah.
bless you, bro. God
Well,
bless you.
you also I've also been fortunate that I have seen steps ahead of our relationship. So we have set standards, and we have talked about situations where I've been very adamant about, listen, in the future you might be one to change up on me and do things like that. But since the beginning, when we talked about a wedding, I said, look, if we have a wedding, I'm not involved. Oh my God, but is it? No, not involved. But and I never waver, because I knew that I would be very miserable, and it makes me miserable. And I told Brandon, baby, you can have a wedding, but do you have a wedding and me being miserable, or you want a wedding and me being just cool with whatever?
God bless you, bro.
No, I don't want you to be miserable. I also don't want you to be miserable. I would never do this to you. If you tell me that you're gonna be miserable with something, we'll never do this to you. Go ahead, George. Let's hear you out. Huh?
Nothing. You might as well just hook up AirPods, bro, and just talk with your AirPods. So, bro, that's actually something that it's interesting. That's something that I wanted to bring up at some point during this conversation, because you come across to me as somebody who is not wavering when they make up their minds on something, right? Like I told George, you're like one of the most disciplined people that I've met in a long time. Period.
Cool.
Period. You
Oh my God.
That's what I mean. You come across, and what I mean by unwavering, let me clarify a little bit, is somebody who is disciplined, is extremely disciplined in when you say you're going to do something, you're a man of your word. I'll show up here, you show up there. I'm going to do this thing, you end up doing it. So I guess my question is, when do you waver? Like, what's an example of something that you would waver or not? Like, where does that come from, bro?
When you, in your internal conversation, the more you are untrue to your own word, the more deflated confidence you have. So when I see myself, and I have trouble with this, waking up at the same time, very difficult. My God, been dealing with this for a long time. Going to bed at the same time. Whenever I don't accomplish it, which is most of the time, I wake up with the shattered confidence on that, because I didn't do for myself what I told myself I should be doing. But to take it to an even more extrapolated example is, if I tell somebody something and I don't, and it is within my control to make it come to fruition, and I just flake, then it shatters even more my confidence, because I'm also checking myself in the society mirror.
Right.
And I put myself in the other person's shoes and think, oh my God, oh, Odell, unreliable. And I don't want to see myself like that.
Yeah.
So it starts internal, but when it is external as well, I'm always thinking, my God, how am I coming across? You know, especially in this type of situations.
So you
Because
kind of look at yourself from like an outside, from like a third party objective view at how somebody would view you. That's kind of like what it is?
Yes. When we're talking about this type of stuff, yes. If you invite me to a party, and I've had trouble with this. If you invite me to a party here in the States, I'm having trouble waging what time is the arrival. If you say 8, you know, it's, for me, it's, oh my God, at 7:55, I'm trying to arrive, and then Brianna's not tapping on my shoulder.
No, you're trying to be there first. No way, bro.
Yeah.
La 8:30, la 9. That's how it. That's yeah, dude. Yeah, I get that.
So
Okay.
Brianna's tapping me on my shoulder. No, we're not there until 9, and I'm thinking, oh my God, we're gonna be late. You know, in my mind,
Damn,
I'm translating
dog.
it like,
Are you punctual on time? You're really good at being on places on time?
I have to be. For my own sake.
Wow.
It's not because of oh, I'm trying to come across. No, it's if I'm running late, my internal thoughts and my conversation is, oh my God, you suck. You're wasting people time. How dare you? You had time to prepare. Why didn't you? You had time to, you knew that it was difficult to find parking. Why didn't you? So to avoid myself that conversation, it's not that I overcompensate being too early, but I try to be earlier.
Right. So it's interesting, bro, because I struggle with the same thing when it comes to por la mañana, getting up at the same at a decent hour, right?
Mm-hmm,
and it's something that I've always struggled with my entire life, because we just got a king sized bed.
Wow. Moving up in life, man.
Bro, I mean, we're married, dog. We were sleeping on a full size bed for 4 or 5 years, and it's us and the dog, and we just got a king size bed, bro. And I don't even know what to do. Like, I'm literally sleeping in there, and so, you know what? We have so much room that I'm like, I kind of don't know what I'm supposed to do in this bed. How can I sleep in this shit? So, anyways, but it's even worse now. But it's one of those things that, you know, dude, you hear all these people getting up early. You know, the morning is when you conquer the day, essentially, right? Like that first hour and a half of your day is what's going to set you up for success for the rest of your day. And I struggled with it because my entire childhood, I loved getting up late. Like I would get up late. I just would. I would go to sleep super late and I would get up late. And my dad wakes up. He could go to sleep at 2 a.m. and wake up at 5 every day. Bah, 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 bah. That's just how he is. He just, no matter what. And I remember I would wake up and he'd be like, look who decided to get up. Wow. What time it is? You know what I did already? I went to the boat. I went to the, like, that's the type of guy. He was in the army and shit too. So that's like, and I never understood why he would do that until I got older. And then when I started getting up early, I realized, bro, because I like to do my stretch. You know what I'm saying? I like to stretch. I like to meditate. We talked about meditation. I like to journal. I like to do these things. And if I wake up too late, I don't get to do them. And then I start that self-talk of like, you motherfucker, bro, you could have prepared for this. You could have gone to sleep earlier yesterday. All these things that are the bad self-talk. But for me, what helps me sort of subside, sort of calm that down is focusing on breath and just being like, okay, well, what can I do right now? Right. So I understand that I didn't do that. How can I learn from that? Right. So I learned from that in preparing better for next time in terms of like, okay, tonight I'm not going to fucking stay up until 11:30. I'm going to go to sleep. We hear a little feedback still, George. There's a little feedback.
Yeah, it's one of the cables.
The cord? Yeah. So se rompió Córdoba.
Córdoba.
So but that's
right
meditation. It helps me with that negative self-talk in terms of like, all right, analyze, learn, right? And see what I can learn from that in order to move forward. So my question is kind of like, what helps you remedy when you're starting to have all those sort of things where you beat yourself up and things like that? How do you remedy sort of moving forward past that type of stuff?
I think I have a gauge that when I'm going out of control in my own thoughts, there's a part of me that says, whoa, 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 yo, relax. Whoa, 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 whoa. And I hear it, and I'm hearing myself because I hear this internal chatter just being so devastating. And I hear this other thought like, wow, that was nasty. Why you be so nasty? Relax. And then I try to, oh my God, I'm going off the rails. And I can hear myself just going in a downward spiral. Yeah, I was better. Yeah.
Thank God.
Better.
Sorry about that, guys. As you guys speak about being late. Shit.
That's okay.
30 minutes.
This has honestly been so far a pretty good conversation, to be completely honest.
I'm gonna lie, I stayed up really late making music. That's why I'm like not prompt.
Of course you
like,
did,
punctual.
you motherfucker.
I think there's a caveat to what we were talking about, because my dad was also in the military, so he was also up 5 a.m. And it's not that he's up, it's that he has terrible sleep. You know, right. It's that he doesn't rest that well. But there is an idea of artistry being alive at the dark hours.
Yes.
That is not per se harming us in a way. It's just how it could be, that just how most of our lives we have lived. Therefore, we feel the most comfortable being awake late at night, just wondering, just pondering, just imagining, just going in your own mind, but just in an exercise of imagination that maybe people that are not in an artistic related field that do this often, maybe they just don't feel like that dark part of the day they're using it, right? Because you said it, George. I don't think a lot of people were up late working, right? Many people will be up late watching Netflix or eating garbage or doing stupid stuff, right? But you were out late working. And a lot of people that are in the music industry, artists, theater, you're doing a play at 8 at night, ends up at 10. then you gotta wrap up, then you go meet people, and then you gotta be social and you gotta recharge because you feel so tender after, and then that's the dark part of the day, but you utilize it in a way that serves your craft. So I don't know if the whole waking up early and winning the day, it applies to art. I don't know.
It can. I think it can if you wanted to. Like
Waking up early.
Yeah, like I make music. Isaac knows, like, one of my favorite people that I like that makes music. I mean, who doesn't like him? Pharrell. He goes into the studio like at 7 a.m.
That's what Eminem does too.
And
he goes 9 to 5. 9 to 5.
Yeah, and they treat it like a real job where, and he tells the people he's doing collaborations with, like, hey, this is the time I'm at the studio. If you don't want to show up at that time, that's fine. I'll send you the files. But obviously, everybody wants to be in the room with that guy, so people wake up that early for him. And Isaac said,
oh, and there he goes.
Great point.
There he goes. You just froze.
What?
We heard nothing of what you said.
Froze. I'm still frozen.
No, not
anymore.
You said, like Isaac said, and that's when you froze. All right, you're frozen again.
Am I still
if
frozen?
It's not your mic. If it's not your mic, it's your fucking video, bro.
Goddamn Miami.
Goddamn
Miami.
Miami, bro. What the fuck is going on over there, bro? Is it still flooding?
Just connect to your T-Mobile.
Yeah,
your Wi-Fi is fucking it up.
I know.
You have the Cuban Wi-Fi.
Put on your he has the Cuban Wi-Fi. Because it's not Colombian. Here he comes.
No, he's too close to Cuba. They have
that's what I mean.
Oh my god.
So funny.
How about now?
All right, yeah.
Well,
and I still see you're frozen. I see one frozen, and the other is not.
I left it though, and then came back.
That's so funny. Whatever.
Boot the other one out. Boot the other one out.
Why? I think it's kind of funny. Look at how cute you look, bro. Look at that.
There we go.
Okay.
All right. So you're saying, like I was saying, and then
so Isaac and I, like, at least me, I know I was notorious for sleeping in just because I stay up late a lot. But I realized the older I got, how much you can accomplish by just waking up in the morning.
That's definitely true. I think that what Odell was saying is, like, there is that caveat in it, just because I was
cheers, by the way.
Yes. Salud.
Cafecito.
I almost made Cuban coffee today, but then I was like, I don't want to shit in the middle of the podcast, so I'm not gonna make Cuban coffee. That's true. I mean, that could be a whole segment. Thoughts from the shitter. But I was thinking about what he said, because at night it's, dude, I feel like just being an artist, sometimes you have to live a double life, especially fucking here in America, right? Where, let's say you want to do theater, it's going to be hard to fucking make a living off theater. You can, but it's going to be hard, right? So you got to deal with the morning or whatever, your day, doing something else, and then you go to theater and you play at night, and you have to socialize afterward, and you have to, like, you're in that state trying to recharge. And that's really when you turn up and turn alive. That's when that other part of your brain, I don't even know what part of it, I'd be interested in actually learning about it, but what part of your brain turns on when you're performing, for instance, on stage, or you're doing a DJ set, something that goes off in your brain in that moment, because I feel like that's what's activated sometimes at night. I know that sometimes I can't go to fucking sleep and I just start drawing, like, in just a regular little notebook that I have, because I can't go to sleep, or I have to read a book. I have to do something that's gonna, like, get my brain in that channel, right? And I think it's interesting to also note, have you guys read The War of Art? Have either one of you read The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield?
Oh,
no, The War of Art, not Sun Tzu, not The Art of War. It's a whole different book. But
no,
The War of Art is by this guy named Stephen Pressfield, who wrote, I believe it's The Legend of Bagger Vance, or that movie that Brad Pitt was in, whatever, the Great Falls, whatever. Anyways, he was in the military as well, and he talks a lot about waking up in the morning and just getting, being in the channel for the muse to use you when it's going to be used, but you need to show up, right? And that's kind of what Big Magic is about as well, and things like that. But I think that in the morning, I think it's that daily routine more than anything, is like that discipline, whether it's at night, whether it's in the morning. Because I'm also reading Atomic Habits right now, and oh no, it wasn't Atomic Habits. I listened to Chris Williamson's podcast, the one that you sent me, Odell, and I've listened to him before. But he had this guy on there, and this guy was talking about how his wife's brain turns on at night. So they're like on different schedules, right? So his brain, he's like, I wake up and my brain starts firing off from 9 a.m. to like 2 p.m. I'm fucking going and I'm on. But then my wife at like 6 p.m., she starts to get going.
Yeah.
So it's like different people get going at different times. And it's like that awareness of when that happens and how you can utilize that to your advantage to do what you want to do is what's fascinating to me, you know?
It's about awareness, because I feel that Brianna and me are the same way. I will wake up in the morning. Actually, now that I remember, my most useful time when I wrote the book, I wrote from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. every day. And it was an effort base, but showing up every day, you will get to work and you will write. I found that whenever I put it up to later, I would start having conversations with myself, negotiating why it was a bad idea to write, why nobody was gonna fucking read the book, why it was shit, right? So what worked for me was right in the morning, because I am at the least confrontational with myself. But Brianna has a second wind at around 8 p.m. that I'm just depleted. So you will wake me up at the same time. You will wake her up at the same time, and we run the day, the same things together. At that time, I'm ready to just, oh, dude, that's it. The day is done, and she's just, oh, the day's done. No, I'm here for it.
The day's just getting started. The day's just getting started.
Give me more. And I'm just looking from afar in awe, because I'm ready to call it a day. That's it for me. That's it. Wrap it up.
What time would you get up at? You said you start writing at 7. What time would you wake up at?
7. Would not
and
brush
immediately
my teeth. Would not.
You would just start writing.
Yeah. I forgot about peeing.
Wow.
Yeah, you would just go, no food, nothing.
No wind up,
nothing.
no meditation, none of that.
Nothing.
You just go right into it.
Wake up, 0 conversations to the desk. That's it.
And is it like open format? Is it open format, or like you write anything? You write anything?
No, he wrote a book.
No.
He has a book. He has a book that he released on Amazon, which I want to talk about in a second.
The reason I asked is because I remember when I stayed over at Isaac's place one time when you were with Pat, and you showed me like you would write in the mornings, and it was more like open format, right? Like you would just write
stream
whatever.
of consciousness. Okay. That was more stream of consciousness, and that's based off The Artist's Way, and by Julia Cameron. Which that book fucking changed my life. That one was one of the ones that when I found it when I was 18. The acting guru who basically showed me what acting was just revolutionized. Just bro. This guy named Russ Blackwell. It was in Orlando. This guy by the name of Russ Blackwell, he's probably the best actor I've ever worked with in person. But the way that he just laid it out, I'm very much somebody who needs tough love to analyze myself. I can handle it, right? You know what I mean? I don't need people to tell me that you were amazing. That was amazing. I don't particularly seek that. I don't seek it. That doesn't mean I don't like it. When people tell me that, of course, my ego is like, oh, thanks. But I don't seek that out. And when somebody calls me out on my shit and he calls other people out, like he would, for instance, say to people, oh, so why are you holding your sides while we're doing the scene? They're like, oh, Russ, I didn't have time to memorize it. I'm really sorry. And he'd be like, all right, yeah, no worries. And then he would say, by any chance, did you watch TV this week? And they were like, yeah, I did. And he's like, oh, what'd you watch? And they'd be like, oh, I watched this, whatever it was. And he's like, oh, it's on Netflix, right? And it's like an hour. And they're like, yeah. And he's like, how many episodes did you watch? And they're like, I think I saw like 3 episodes. He goes, okay, so you had 3 hours to work on your scene. Don't tell me you didn't have time. Just say it's not a priority. which is
Yeah.
fine. If it's not a priority, that's okay. You know, like, but
Yeah.
don't lie to me, because he was like, this is my livelihood. This is how I pay my bills. This is how I take care of my parents. So don't subject it to it. It's just not worth your time. Just say it's not a priority, and that's fine. Then we can move along. But anyways, he told us to read a couple books. One of them was The Artist's Way, which the two main components of The Artist's Way is the morning pages and the artist's date. So the morning pages is you wake up, and I struggle with keeping up with this, but I have like 20 journals filled. You just write 3 pages of stream of consciousness, long form, longhand. Doesn't matter what's on it. Some days I literally would write, what am I writing? I'm writing. This is writing. This is a pen. Like, I would write the dumbest shit in the world. Right. But it's just to basically get something physically manifested out of your body onto something. So you're literally doing something. And then once a week, you take an hour and you go do whatever the fuck you want. Whether it's like go stare at a tree for an hour, but do something that you want to do that brings you joy, like a date yourself, right? So go to a bookstore, whatever, do whatever you want for 1 hour a week to kind of keep that alive. So that book, that's where I started that journaling. And then there's another book called Anam Cara, and it is a Gaelic traditional spirituality book. So it's based off the Celtic tradition, and essentially what it means is soul friend. Anam Cara means soul friend. It's just one of those books that was like sort of expanded my mind. You know, it talks about how underneath our fingernail, like that little area, that space between our fingernail and our finger, there's an infinite world of possibilities under that. And it just makes you certain things open up. Like, for instance, it made me rethink death in certain terms. Like, when somebody's born, let's just say you were able to go into a womb and talk to the baby, and you were going to tell them, hey, we're going to cut off your life source, the umbilical cord. We're going to cut that off the way you're getting fed. You're going to leave this thing where you're alive right now, right? We're going to cut that life source off, and you're going to go and enter into this light. You're going to literally enter into a light that you have no idea what's on the other side. It's unknown. It's like, so a birth can also be a form of a death type of thing. So it made me like, when I read that, I was like, that's kind of fucking, what did I just read? But then the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I guess that's kind of truth, because, you know, death is just kind of an unknown, you know? I mean, regardless of what we believe in and things like that, nobody really knows that I know of what dying, literal dying, when they're dead, you don't know, you know? And it's just another form of kind of, I guess, visualizing it in a different way, right? Because we've already kind of died by being born. The fact that we're here, number one, is fucking unbelievable, you know? But yeah, those 2 books really just kind of blew my mind. I know I just went on a complete tangent away from
I
the
sidebarred
book.
it. So you in the mornings you wake up and you write this book that you wrote, right? Is that what you're saying?
Talk to us a little bit about your book. Tell us what the book is about. What's the book about?
Before I speak on that, I hear something that is very interesting. I think why the war on art is so, it's a 2 habits that go so well with each other, because the waking up early and writing is such a difficult thing to do, that when you reward yourself by 1 hour doing whatever you want, you are in the loop of habits. You are making it more concrete to actually be okay and do the hard thing that you need to do. Because that's one thing that it was illuminated to me when I read The Power of Habit, that if you know how the reward system works, you can really set up the habit that you're looking for. And the reward system is giving yourself an hour of be free, fly, little bird. Yeah. So in 2017, I think 2016, was it 2016? It was 2017 that I wrote it. I was here in LA. One day I wake up and my car is gone. So I was doing Lyft and Uber, and wake up and my car is gone. I remember like it was yesterday. My heart drops. 6 a.m. and oh my God, I'm gonna have a full day working. great. I'm an actor. That's how I'm paying acting school. I go out. And I thought I parked the car here. It must be in the other street. Why did I park it on the other street? The car is not here. Where's the car? The car got repossessed by the bank because I didn't pay for 4 months. So the bank came to get their property. And I go back to my little room that I was rented, and just I'm out of the job and I'm out of a car and I have no money. And I by no means I'm calling my parents and telling them, hey, hey, this is what happened.
Yeah.
So I had like a week of, oh my God, what do I do? So I've been reading heavily before that. It's about 30-40 bucks a year, and I really started to see similarities on things. And I knew I could extract things that I wanted so that I can put it in a format that if I pass on, I could give this to somebody, or somebody can read it and see, oh, this person existed, this person lived, and these were his thoughts at this age, at this moment in time. So I thought, why don't I just write a book? And that sounds so full of yourself, right? Because I don't know anybody that has wrote a book.
Right.
I know you see books, but you don't know people that write books. Well, I don't. I thought, just write a book. Just do it. And I thought, okay, I do. If average book has 60,000 words, if I write 2,000 words a day, in 30 days, I'll be done. Easy. Let's do it. So I made the outline, and I wanted to speak about ego, because I've been struggling with my ego all of my life, right? I'm an attention whore. I love attention, but growing up, realized that what do you do with the attention, right? What do you seek attention, but what do you do with it? You want to make a fool out of yourself. So through researching myself, I found out that growing up, I wanted the attention because I felt that whenever my family's attention was on me, there was no arguing, there was no problems. I was making it safe for them. And I thought, okay, if I can get their attention, we're going to be okay. I'm going to have all the things tied together to me, and we're gonna be okay. But growing up, you don't know why you're seeking attention, right? Then you go to adolescence, you don't know why you want to be the center of attention. You just know you want to. You don't know why. And my ego was so egocentric. Oh my God, in your teens, a lot of people are egocentric, but I was just off the charts. I was like, oh my God.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
Because all my thoughts were about how are people seeing me? How is this going to help me? Other people see me better, or other people accept me. But I was, of course, that was not the reasoning. I was not so honest and understanding that that's what it was.
Right.
But throughout those years, and it also comes from being an immigrant, because I was born in Cuba, and at the age of 6, my parents moved my sister, themselves, and me to Venezuela. So you come to Venezuela, a place that is not immigrant friendly, because they don't have that many immigrants. They just don't. And you speak, and you're loud, and you know karate, so a couple kids try to bully me, and I would beat their ass. And I thought,
wait, hold on. Quick time out. You can't just gloss over, karate, and then not talk about knowing karate at 6 years old. Hold on. You take us back to that. Take us back to karate. Okay.
So in Cuba, in Cuba, you're just friends with everybody, and people are like your family, right? Whoever's around. we had a family friend that he was a karate professor. So from the age of 3 or 4, I was just hanging out with him. He was like my older brother, and we had a great connection. He was like, my idol. We will watch karate movies together. We will practice. I remember one time I hit a kid, and his first tooth came off because he has all of his teeth, but his first teeth that came off was because I hit him. It was his first day. I remember. I don't know why I remember this, but he has his guard like this, and I thought, oh, I can just go in between, and I just went in between and hit him, and took a tooth out. So
Okay, so you're back in Venezuela. Go back in
yeah,
Venezuela.
we moved from Cuba. We go to Venezuela to very, very difficult place. At night you would hear gunshots. It was that kind of place. And I would go to a school that only has 3 rooms. It has second grade, fourth grade, and sixth grade. If you go from second to third, you got to leave the school. It was that level of hierarchy in society at the bottom. At the bottom.
That's
So
so strange.
I go to this school, and I'm this weird kid. I'm this weird, loud kid and kids have no filter, and they try to bully me, but they would say something to me, and I would grab and I would beat this kid up, right? But it was a problem because I was defending myself, but I am also a problem in school because I go to school with a fresh new clothes and come back all ripped, destroyed. So in Venezuela, that time passed, and that time you just want to adapt. You just want to be accepted as a kid. You don't want to speak with no accent. You don't want anybody to notice that there's anything different of you that you will be a potential target. So my ego just grew. I was just always trying to, okay, how do I get more attention? How could I be more loud? How in a conversation I can speak more? That type of people.
Yeah.
That you speak to them, and it's like you cannot even get a word in. When you become an adult, it's this type of person that we're thinking of is, oh my God, you're just unbearable. And what it is they have an ego that they don't know how to control it, and they don't know that it's doing a disservice. Because if my ego was serving me, why did I think more of what I actually am? I thought of myself so high up, so illuminated, so special, but yet my life wasn't special. So if that's the case, then there's a lie going on in my mind. There's something that is not real.
Do you think that came though from like a sorry to interrupt, but do you think that came from because the way you're explaining it, it doesn't sound, obviously we're mentioning ego, but it sounds like it's coming from a place of like play. We talked about this in our last episode. It sounds like it's coming from a place of like playfulness or just imagination, not so much of like selfishness. What is your take on that? Where do you think it stemmed from?
It could be, there's truth to that. They could be playful until you bring it out to the world, until you are connecting with society. And because you can be all you want in your bedroom, imagining, picturing yourself and picturing yourself higher than you are, shooting, and all of that is an exercise of maybe what you want your life to be, right?
Okay.
But when you take it, right, but here's an example. If I go on and tell you, and I don't know you well, right, and I tell you, I'm going to be the best actor in this town. I am the best actor in this town. Nobody can mess with me. George Clooney, Robert De Niro, they got nothing on me. That's my ego talking. Why? Because the only reason I'm telling you this is to get a reaction from you. It's in my mind, assume what you would think of me. I can think all of that in my bedroom, and it's fine, because I might be picturing myself there. Imagination can go wild, but when you interact with society in that scenario, it's the bad side of your ego. There's a good side of your ego that keeps you alive and well. It's like a thermostat to the world that separates you from the rest. But also, when you are too separated from the rest and you think you're so special from the rest, then you go into this fine line where, oh, I need to be safe from people. Therefore, I'm going to get ahead and be aggressive to people. It could be that. It could turn into that. But my problem, and maybe a lot of people's problem, is that your ego and your confidence, they speak in the same manner. They sound the same.
Like the angel and the devil.
They deceive you.
They deceive you. It sounds the same. It sounds like, oh, I'm being confident. Oh, no. I am just putting myself first.
Oh, good lordy. Hay mucha gente aquí en esta ciudad que son así.
Yeah, but it could be just your ego trying to put a blanket over you and say, I'm going to take care of you in the best way I know how. When in reality, it's not. There's evil people out there, but a lot of the people, they don't care about your life.
Right.
Vast majority.
Right.
Vast majority, they will hear what happened to you and say, wow. If they're not really in your life, they'll say, wow, that's cool, interesting. You won a Pulitzer. Great. And then in your mind, I'm a Pulitzer winner. Jamie Foxx speaks on this, that when he got his Oscar, he just gave it up. He said, no, I don't want it. I don't want it in my house. I don't want that energy on me, that internal conversation saying I'm an Oscar winner. Fuck everybody. Just fuck everybody. I'm an Oscar winner.
I remember that, yeah.
Right? And because by its own merits, I look at it and say, you are an Oscar winner. But he's looking at it and say, no, that's dangerous. And to me, that's a healthy way of your ego. Is you recognizing that if you go far too much on the other side, then you become unrecognizable to yourself. And that's pretty much what the book is about. It has tools, it has stories about myself. And there's that.
Is the format of the book, first off, that there's so many things that you said there that just sparked so many little tangents in my brain.
Me too.
But is the format of the book, so thank you for that, because that was really nice. Is it like a story? Is it narrative? Is it more each chapter is its own separate is it like self-help manner? How's the format of the book? What's the format of the book like?
It's a story. It's a story of my life chronologically that also has inputs of how things got better and why I think they got better.
Right.
And tools that I picked up along the way that has helped me quiet the fuck down.
Bro, I got to tell you
You know?
something. You listen very well too. I got to compliment you on that.
I'm very confused right now because you seem very stoic and you're telling me that like te le gusta la bulla y todo eso vaina, and I'm like, where's this at? You know, but obviously we're here chilling, but obviously you probably grown up a lot and you learned from yourself. So sorry to interrupt you, Isaac, but
no, that's all that's what I was gonna say on that front, is that you are somebody who is an intentional listener. And I think there's a difference between people that just listen waiting to talk and
you cut out. Yeah.
You hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between somebody who's an intentional or listener and somebody who just listens waiting to talk, right? Because it's like if you're an intentional listener, you're paying attention to the person that's talking, then you ingest what they say, you digest, and you know that can happen quickly, but it's then you respond based off of sort of that digested material rather than somebody's just like, and then I'm going to say this thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's something that's I would say that you do very well.
to that, you also have to be aware of, and this is again goes back to the ego. The end result of the conversation is for you to hear the other side and use that information, make it into your own side, and give it, wait for it, and receive it, right? That's the whole point of language. We created language so that the information could land. But when we created language, when somebody taught you how to speak, they never taught you how to stop speaking to yourself in here. You're taught to speak. This is this word. This is that word. This is that word. When you're growing up, and then you change into your inside, and then it's just an ongoing, nonstop conversation to yourself. And the whole idea of language is for your information to land. The information doesn't land if you don't understand that the other person is also having an internal conversation inside their brains. And so a lot of times, and this happens with Brianna. You could tell me how let's just say about the wedding, and we're talking about something logistical about the wedding, and you tell me, what do you think? I would immediately, within a second, I will tell you, I think da 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 da. I will ask Brianna, and what do you think? Silence. Our brains work different. She needs time for those words, because she's having a conversation, but she's not ready to say anything. And sometimes I get agitated. Brianna, tell me, the first thing comes on your mind. She say, I'm not thinking anything. She is. It's just the way that her brain works. It needs to have a full form concept before she speaks on it, right? So in a conversation, at the end of the day, what you hope for is to really understand what the other person is saying. Don't listen to your beats on the conversation. Maybe store something that you want that person to elaborate on, and then you continue to go from when that person is ready to stop. That's why it's so difficult to speak to a person that's so egocentric and so narcissistic that they just go on a rampage of everything. And and they might be speaking something great, but yet you don't have the opportunity to stop them and say, can you elaborate on that? Because there's something that resonated with me, but it's still not fully formed on my brain, and I want your help. It's dude, and I'm better now, but I was so in my own brain, just trying to get myself heard all the time. Oh my God, I gotta speak, because otherwise they will never understand me. They will never accept me. They will think I am stupid. They will think I don't know what I'm talking about.
I'm very much so like that when I was younger too.
I mean,
like very in my own head.
And I think I've always said George Michael is the type of person that you see in a party and he's hanging out in the back of the party, like in the fringes of it, because he's an observer. George Michael is like one of the most that's why I wanted to do this with him. Like, actually, this is a good point. The reason, and I told you a little bit about this, so that the reason why I wanted to even, or George Michael and I even started this, was because, you know, we're on opposite ends of the coast. He was one of my groomsmen in my wedding. I've known him since I was literally 4 years old, you know, like every state. And we've been friends consistently. We have like this little group of friends, que somos como cinco, that we literally grew up together and we stayed friends together. So anyways, George Michael is one of those people, though, that his brain works in a way that I don't know anybody else's brain that works like that. He will say stuff sometimes, and I'm like, that's a George Michaelism. Like, I remember one time we were at somebody's house, and he came up to me, and he's like, we cracked the code of time. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck that means, bro. What are you talking about? He goes, we cracked the code of time. And I go, you just repeated yourself. What does that mean? He's
I would say like in a different tone to like see if it made
yeah,
more
to like
sense.
make
Yeah,
me think
yeah.
that it's gonna make sense.
No,
I still have
no,
no fucking
you don't
idea
understand.
what you're
We
talking about.
cracked the code of time.
And he was pretty much it was one of those things because we were older already and we were like partying at this condo or whatever. And it was one of those things that he was like, look at where we are now. And we started off as jits, like little 4-year-olds, and now we're still together. Like we're it's this code of like the time. It's crazy. You see the difference in who we were and who we are now. It's like this loop. So anyways, that's what I took from it. I don't know if that's what it meant, but
I can touch on that later, but go ahead.
yeah, but that was one of the things reasons that I wanted to start out with this thing with him, is because he has such an interesting and fascinating mind, because he's always on the fringes observing, right? I consider him to be very much an observer, and he's thinking and having that self-talk in George Michael. I mean, you can speak for yourself, but that's one of those things that when you were talking about Brianna, that reminded me of him is that he's very good at silence. You know, I'd say George is one of those people that's very good at being stoic and ingesting and observing, and then forming and extrapolating these sorts of his own ideas and communicating them, right? Because there's some people who will fire off quick, but they didn't take time to really formulate what they actually think about that thing. They're just the reactions kind of spewing out. So I think that was really interesting. And I heard Tim Ferriss say one time, when he started his podcast, he was talking to this guy who was a great interviewer. And the guy told him, he said, let silence do the talking. And Tim was like, what are you talking about? And he said, when somebody's done talking, just wait 3 Mississippis, right? And I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, just wait. And usually, more often than not, the people will fill in the silence, because people are not okay with waiting a few seconds in silence. And funnily, and I heard that Sky and I were on our honeymoon driving in Iceland when we were listening to this, and she was sleeping. I put on a podcast and she knocks out immediately. I'm driving. I'm like, let's fucking listen to Tim Ferriss. She's like, yeah. And she's immediately asleep. And I'm like, perfect. Because then I really get to listen to it. And I'm like in the zone. And I remember thinking that I was like, fuck, I'm going to use that when I get back. And I started using it in my solar consultations. People would talk, right? Or if they'd say, yeah, you know, this price is just really high. And I would just wait. And more often than not, they'd be like, but maybe it's because you guys do this. And I'm like, I'm not even selling at this point. I'm not even doing anything. You guys are filling it in for me. I'm literally not doing anything, you know? And I think that's a really interesting notion is the way that different people's brains work differently in terms of that intentional listening type of thing. And just letting silence do the talking. For whatever reason, when you were talking about that, I was like, silence is so beautiful and so necessary, especially as an artist. That's another thing too, to all of that, you know. George, do you have any thoughts? Because I have a question that I have in my head, but I don't want to ask it before we get off on this.
Yeah, I mean, I've been like that since I was young. I mean, there would be certain times my parents are like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" And they're like, "You just have," I would do this face.
Yeah, that's always it.
And just like they would be concerned. They're like, "Are you okay? Like, are you mad about something?"
That's
And
like your dad,
no.
bro.
I'm like, no, why? And they're yeah. So then a lot of people would be like, it looks like you have a lot on your mind. Where I would say when I was younger, I was probably a prisoner to my thoughts, where I would be thinking of scenarios of like things that haven't even happened yet, right? Like if we're like they say, if you're thinking of the past, it's you have regret. If you're thinking of the future, you get anxiety, but if you're thinking of the present, you're at peace. So I was very much so thinking into the future a lot, to the point where I probably get anxiety. And I think that became a part of me at a certain point because which we talked about the last episode of whatever we do for a living, it can become part of it can be our whole identity, when really that's not our whole identity. But at one point, my creative mind, I let it become my identity completely. So I would be too much in my own thoughts. Am I frozen?
No,
you
you're cutting it
whenever
out.
we do this face, is because you're sounded like RoboCop.
Yeah, you're like crushed ice. It reminds
Yeah.
me
Is
of
it
crushed
better?
ice.
Is it better now?
Yeah,
Or no?
no,
It's as good as it's
it
gonna be.
happens. Yeah.
Okay.
Keep going.
I
Keep going.
gotta get a new mic. So not up until maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, I learned to deal with it and not to get too stuck in the train of thought of a bunch of thoughts.
So
And I learned more
how did that? Why do you think that changed?
communicating with people more. Kind of what you were
Mm,
saying earlier, understanding that ego, like it even came to a realization now where I was like, man, this whole time my ego, there's like a yin yang to it, and the part that's not so healthy was deceiving me, right? Was feeding
mm-hmm.
my ego was feeding itself to the point where like gluttony in a sense. And I
Mm-hmm.
to just give
Wow.
more
Yeah.
background, to give more background, I played soccer growing up, and soccer was my life. So everything else was secondary. You know, it was family and
Mm,
soccer and friends. That's it. And so I didn't really take anything else seriously. So and I love sports. I don't know what kind of person I would be without sports today, but at the same time too, that's all I knew. So I didn't know another side of myself. So that ego and confidence I got from soccer and sports, I applied it to the rest of my life, which in many ways it benefited me, but in other ways it probably hindered me, right?
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I maybe met someone that didn't do sports, it was probably harder to communicate because their confidence wasn't behaving the same way mine was, or ego wasn't behaving the same way mine
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
So it came to a point of just maturing and understanding like the mode of thinking wasn't benefiting me to my full extent, and then also not completely, which I was so comfortable with eternalizing. And I always put this kind of train of thought of input versus output, and how he said like I digest a lot of things, but at a certain point I realized I'm inputting too much and I'm not outputting enough, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm probably answering more of like how did I get to this point of realizing that, and it was just more so of don't overindulge in yourself, and don't change who you are, but grow. You know, evolve a little bit, because I was very set in my own
Mm-hmm.
ways of how I thought, and that was creating a ceiling for myself. It was a high ceiling, like I said, it benefited me a lot, but then there would be times my head would hit the ceiling, and then I'm like, something's got to change. You know, I have to be a
Yeah.
little more social. I have to have a different outlook. Like I told Isaac, I read somewhere someone said like the true definition of intelligence is being able to withhold uh two conflicting ideas in your mind and trying to understand both.
Mm-hmm.
So for the longest time when I was young, I was very observant, but I would still only adopt my train of thought. But then as I grew with time, I was like, well, if I'm going to be observant, I have to do something with these observations. I can't just take them in and then um try to justify the way I think. So I guess what Isaac's saying is too, like I'm very observant. I'm not impulsive. I'm definitely not impulsive. Um, and I try to seek other views. Not to say I'm going to agree with them, but I definitely want to see other views and see where they can take my train of thought. It's a funny dynamic because I'm very similar to my mom's train of thought, where my dad and my sister are more similar. They're more impulsive and very like my sister's a Scorpio, I'm a Libra. I'm not huge into astronomy or anything like that, but from like the responses I get from people, it makes a lot more sense to where it takes a lot for me to boil over. Whereas my sister's more like she's gonna tell you what it is and how it is, and if you don't like it, go kick rocks. You know, but I respect her for that because she's gonna tell you how she feels and she's very loyal. Where me, I'm very more like you said, stoic. I'm more laid back. Um, I'm I'm not very simple minded. I can get lost in my thoughts in a sense.
Mm.
As I go off on this tangent. But to kind of touch back on what Isaac was saying of like where I kept telling him we cracked the code of time. There was this one time where his father, Isaac, told me, he's like, I asked my dad, or he basically asked me, what do you know what the meaning of life is?
Mm.
and he asked him what it was, and he said the goal or the meaning of life is try to fit as many lifetimes within your one life.
Mm.
So anytime we would travel somewhere, I used to think of, imagine when airplanes didn't exist, people had to walk, people had to take a bike somewhere. So to me, traveling was like literally time traveling.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime I would hang out with him in Orlando, where we went to school, or LA, I would be like, man, we fit another lifetime within this life, and just
Yeah.
showing gratitude to that whole aspect of, if God forbid this is our last day, someone could say, or we could say to ourselves, our conscious is, we did a lot of things. We did a lot
Yeah.
more things than our great grandparents did, you know, to say we left the country and visit somewhere else, to say that we went to Yosemite, to say that we went to an amusement park, or we went to go watch a movie, anything if the case. And I think it's just a lot about perspective at the end of the day. Like life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it, or how you see it, in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I
Isaac,
that's how I see
we
things in a
cannot hear
sense.
you, Isaac. Still cannot hear you.
No.
We can do this without you. You know, something that you said that I can't stop thinking about it is, whatever you hold in your mind grows on power. So it's very, what you talked about, that you get so much input and not enough output. It just grows in strength to a point that force you to express yourself. And it could also work very, very harshly against you, because you could get to a point where there's so much input that your output is uncontrollable. So you go in and you say something that you really didn't meant, or you can't take back anymore, right? And that's why
Mm-hmm.
Twitter rants and things that people say sometimes in social media and that type of stuff, they might not really think of it, but they just have been holding a situation for so long. Maybe, I don't want to speak of it, but maybe what happened to Will Smith was that, to the output, the input that he had an output that it was uncontrollable. He was just reactive, right? And it's dangerous, because look at what the fuck happened, right? That's dangerous, because we live in a society where
Sorry. My Zoom is going crazy. Go ahead. Output.
The output, I think something so significant about writing is that you must have the confidence and trust that nobody will read it. If you want to be really honest to yourself, that you must find a way to convince yourself that nobody will read it. Then you will have the opportunity to really put a honest output in a way that you will be able to not wrestle with it so much.
Yeah.
Have you read Meditations?
I don't remember. I don't think I have.
By Marcus Aurelius. George, have you read it?
No, I've heard of it though.
The reason why it's amazing, but the reason why I asked that is because he was a Roman emperor who, it's his personal journals, and he never thought anybody was going to read them. And now it's like one of the foremost Stoic books available are his personal journals. He just wrote it. He just wrote it to write it. You know, there wasn't some sort of ulterior motive. Chris Williamson, I think that's his name, Chris Williamson, which is the guy that I sent you that clip, George, the guy that Odell told me about. 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 20. He was like, you have to be okay with 3 people listening to your podcast or 3 million people listening to your podcast, because he's talked about how he didn't have a following until 3 years into him consistently doing work on his podcast 3 days a week. 3 years. And he was like, 3 days a week I would do it, and I would get a short exponential growth. But it wasn't until 3 years down the line then he was like, oh, I can see some fruit that are being born from the seeds that I've planted. right? So that is crazy. So then how do you weigh out the okayness? I don't even know how to fucking ask this question, but the okayness of nobody reading your stuff. So what would be the impetus of writing? Yeah.
Well, you have to be certain that if it is a physical thing, that you can hide it. That's the first thing, because when you are a child, and a lot of our behaviors just come back to our first 6 years of living. If you were a kid and you know nobody was watching, you would be a little mischievous, right? And if you want to be mischievous with your own thoughts and be honest about your own thoughts, you need to be certain that if you put it underneath the bed, and the only reason why somebody will go there is because you're getting robbed and they might potentially kill you. Fuck it, they're gonna kill me. I don't care if somebody reads it, right? The situation is higher than the problem. When your house is burning, you're not thinking if what the fuck is my journal? Is it under the bed? I gotta rescue it. No, fuck it, it's burned. You know, right? Get your shit together. That's it, it's an action. You need to know that you can hide the shit. You need to know that you can lock things beyond passwords. And then you give yourself the opportunity. Okay, here goes. Dark thoughts. Woof, right? And when you do that, the practice, they lose up a little bit the grip that they have on you. A little bit. It's not entirely, but it loses up. It kind of puts you on a motion of, whew, okay, I let it go. That's why when they have AA meetings, it's just talking, and they're not taking classes. It's talking. The more they talk, the less power the addiction has over them. But it's not an open forum. It's people that are going through the same thing as you're going through. People that are there, that they might find empathy in what you're saying. It's not, oh my God, I'm going to tell it to the world. That's what's dangerous also about communicating very harshly or honestly. That nobody needs to. It's not that everybody needs to hear it. You can be honest about your dark thoughts, but the rest of the world doesn't have to hear it. That's why when people say, "No, I'm putting stuff out there. I'm giving it to the universe." Maybe, but do you have to put it on social media? You know, you can speak it to yourself in the mirror, and you're putting it out in the universe. So both exercises, one, it's more ego related, and the other one, it's healthy ego. It's, hey, I'm putting myself first by going in the mirror and speaking to myself the way I want my life to be. I'm speaking to the universe. That's why some people pray not internally, but they voice out their prayers. That's why religion is so powerful when they sing, because the singing is connected to the soul, right? They don't sing because everybody's singing. They sing because when you put your voice into it and you increase the level of your voice to a degree that you are not used to, you feel that you are connecting to a higher self. But do you have to go sing outside the church or the praying group? You don't, right? You don't. The exercise of putting it out there, you have to be mindful of how you do it too.
Yeah, I've had a conversation with my conscious before, and it's asked me, this was maybe when I was a teenager, would I make these beats or music if no one ever heard them? And then I said, yeah, of course. But then the second question is, okay, are you conscious of understanding ego versus soul? Like you're saying, are you doing it because it's feeding your ego or your soul? And for some time, it was like, oh, I'm feeding my ego because this music I'm making is not really good, and I know it's not going to resonate with anyone else but me. So I have to pivot in a sense where it's not meant for anyone else to resonate with, but if it resonates with me in a sense that it's feeding my soul, we all have souls, so and it's gonna it might resonate with somebody. Whereas if I was just feeding my ego, it was just okay, that's cool. There's no other place I'll listen to it but in my room. It's not making me dance or anything, but it's more of I was talking to my cousin about this last night, where for all creatives, the first thing we learn is how to create, but that doesn't mean that it's good. You know what I'm saying? So
What do you mean?
so for the longest time I was making beats that were cool to me, or it was just more of just breaking ground to understand how to make music.
Yeah.
It's like, for instance, if you do pottery, you're first learning to do pottery, not to do it well. You're learning it just to understand the dynamics of it, right?
Mhm.
So it's probably going to be pretty shitty when you start, but you have to accept it as that instead of saying like, oh, this is my baby, this thing's beautiful no matter what, right? You never think
That's
your
an
baby,
ego. That's an egotistic way of saying it.
exactly.
Yes.
Like you have a child, you never think your child's ugly. But I had to realize that no, this song I made is pretty trash. But you gotta
Yeah.
but in a sense too, it's like, hey, you did something though, right? It's
Yeah.
a stepping stone.
Yeah.
Don't get lost in it. So it took time for me until recently where I feel like, okay, now I'm starting to make things that can hold water or can stand on its 2 feet. And maybe if I show it
Mhm.
to somebody, it resonates with them. So I think it's, for me at least, it was a process of understanding, okay, we started because we wanted a challenge. Then it turned to something where it was feeding the ego. Then I had to realize I had to pivot and it has to be more than ego, something that resonates with my soul. And then now I have to sharpen that sword to where when I use it, it can cut deeper than just the surface of everything. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know where it's going with that. I don't know where I was going with that, but I think everything's a process and it's steps and steps. Um, I'm more interested in this book as well. Like you literally wrote it in 30 days.
Yeah.
So how was that process of, did it ever come to a point where I had a question earlier now I remember. Did it ever come to a point because you only strictly wrote it when you woke up, right?
Hmm.
Was there any times throughout the day where you got the itch of like I want to write some more, but you had to refrain from that, or was it
Yes.
more of like an easy thing of like, yeah, I'll write at 2 p.m. then if I really have the urge to.
No. What I would do is I would not write on it. If I had an splurge of ideas, I would go and write it someplace else. I would just have a separate notebook for just brainstorming, but I would not sit down again to write,
Okay.
and I would not edit it. I refuse to edit it. I refuse to go back and edit.
And
I,
did you
I
use it
got.
more of like an exercise or something that with complete intent of I want to write a book?
I was a complete intent. I knew that it was very likely that nobody would read it, and I constantly wrestle with myself and say, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because if whenever I have a child, I can give this book to my kid and say, here were my thoughts at this point in time when I was 27, 26, 27. Here you go. This is what I was thinking. Here you go. This is a way of me saving myself time. If I can go back 10 years to when I was 16, I will give myself that book. It was meant for that. It was meant for how do I save my older self steps? How do I save myself mistakes so that they can go on and make their own mistakes?
Interesting.
Bro, you should read. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Because I had to read on my
Yes,
mic.
yes, yes.
You should read Meditations, dude. I feel like you would absolutely love that book. That one, and then Benjamin Franklin has letters that he sent to his son. That's like
Mm.
semi autobiographical. I feel like you would love.
You cut out.
Fucker. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I came back right when I said fucker, huh?
Yeah.
So what I was gonna say too is we talked about this, I think, in our first episode, George. It was about how I love a saying that says the only two people you have to make proud are your 8-year-old self and your 80-year-old self.
Mm.
Right? Because I think there's this fine balance of maintaining that what we were talking about, that childlike creativity in your room, where it's that, we were talking about the ego and it's the creativeness where you're just doing it just to do it. You're not doing it because of something else that's feeding it for whatever reason. And then that 80-year-old self is like, when you look back on this time in your life and the things that are truly valuable, are you going to say, I valued the right things at that point in time, or I did the right decisions at that point in time, as best as I possibly could? I don't think that I'm going to know what I'm thinking at 80 right now, but I certainly think about that. And I certainly think, like, if I work 42 hours instead of 40 hours this week, in terms, and I don't spend those 2 hours with my wife who I haven't spent enough time with, right? And I don't foster that relationship. Am I going to look back on that when I'm 80 and say, God, I wish I would have worked 42 hours on the week of April, 17th to the 20th, whatever it is? Am I going to think that? Did I do everything that I needed to do this week in order to progress myself? And am I not compromising with myself? That's something else that I've been trying to do this year specifically, has been, don't negotiate with yourself. If you say you're going to do something, do it. And if you don't do it, be honest with yourself and say, hey, I didn't do it. And feel bad about it, right? It's like, it's okay to feel bad about it because you didn't live up to what you said you were going to do. But don't then start saying, like, well, I didn't do that. It's okay that I didn't do that because I did this. It's like, no, I didn't do it. Yeah, I didn't do it. Fine. Fuck it. I feel bad. That's okay. I didn't do it. It's crazy. Not like, it's not like well, it's because I did this. No. I just didn't do it. Right. I didn't make a priority of it, like we were talking about a little earlier.
I think that was my mantra when I turned 30 last year as well.
Yeah, man. That's a huge one for me. Habits and not negotiating with myself. So if I say I'm going to do something, do it. And if I don't, be honest with myself and say I didn't fucking do it. Está bien.
Yeah. A couple episodes I told Isaac that we finally, how old are you, Odell?
31.
Okay, so we're all...
He's about to be 32.
Okay, yeah. So I turned 31 in October, and I told Isaac either last episode or a couple episodes ago, we finally have a decade under our belt as not being children.
That's true.
So having that perspective of, like, what 10 years can do and how quick it comes and goes, that my realization, right? Isn't that crazy? That, like, now you officially...
You remember from 20 to 22 how much time it took? It was like, oh my God. Remember from 16 to 20. Bro. It was...
The world was so different.
So long.
The world was so different externally and internally.
Yeah, it was so long. And it's funny that you say that, because I remember, man, when I turned 20, there was not a real shift in me or fear than when I turned 30. When I turned 30, different types of fears creeped in, measuring stick against other people. Where am I? Where are they? How am I doing? Where I thought I was going to be? So you're starting when you're 30, and I wonder, it would be interesting to speak to a 40-year-old, what happened when they turn 40. So I guess there's something about each decade that is so palpable and similar in a lot of people, because if you're 20, everybody's in, that's another 20, everybody's 20. So it made me think of that. It made me think of, wow, I had the same, why, what do I have to change in my 30s so that I get better than what I did in my 20s, right? But when I turned 20, it wasn't like, oh, what do I change in my teens? No, it was, oh, fuck it. Let's do everything. Let's please myself. Let me please myself.
Yep.
When I turned 20, I moved to the States. And it was, and I was going through medical school. And I was in the 5th year, and I had a year and a half to go to graduate. And there was a moment where I went to the hospital. We were doing rounds in surgery, and I hated every moment of it with all of my soul. I would put on the uniform in the morning. I would put the white robe, and it felt like the fabric will harm me, will harm my skin, because it felt every day that I was putting on a costume. Yeah. was just a costume, and I'm going to play. When somebody said, so you will go to the hospital, and the hospital was so overwhelmed with people in the hallways that whenever they saw a white robe, no matter that you look like a baby, you just came out of somebody's womb, they would look at you and say, doctor, so and so. And yeah, I was so lost. And when they say doctor, it's like, oh my God, it was disgusting that they would call me a doctor. Just because they didn't know what it was, what was in my mind, how unprepared I was, and how little interested I was. I wanted to be invisible.
Imposter syndrome.
Yes. And I was a real imposter. It wasn't like, oh my, I did the work. There were no work behind it. You know, there was no confidence behind it. It was impossible to have confidence like that.
Was this in Venezuela? Was this when you were?
It was in Venezuela.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in Venezuela. And I had one day the head of the surgery department wanted to see me because he wanted to speak about my obvious disinterest and how, because their goal was to help you pass, right? Nobody wanted to fail you. And a friend came that was in the same grade as me, and he said, dude, what's going on? We're at the end. We're at the end of the road. Because I always had my doubts, and I always had him, and I always told him, my God, this is so difficult to go through, but not because of the size of the obstacle. It's that the obstacle was not interested. It was not a challenge to me. Whenever I applied myself, I could do it, but I didn't want to apply it myself. So he comes to me and says, we were sitting having coffee, and he says, you dude, buckle down. This is the end. And as he was speaking, my mind just was cloudy, and I couldn't really hear. And it was so much input that my output was, I'm done. In the middle of a conversation where it made no sense for me to respond that, I said, I'm done. He said, what do you mean? I said, I can't do this no more. Literally like a movie. I can't do this anymore, right? I can't do it anymore. So are you serious? We're done. We're almost done. I said, I cannot come one more day to this place. The smell, the people, putting on this costume. And I said, I'm gone. He said, where are you going? And I left in the middle of it. I said, I'm going, and I'm not coming back. I hopped on my car and I drove home. It was 45 minutes of sobbing and uncontrollable sobbing. I just empty. My chest was empty. I could barely breathe. I didn't know if I was gonna make it home. So I got home and I hid myself for 2 weeks, and I told my parents that I was going to medical school. I would put on the suit and disappear for the whole day, and I just dog. I just stopped, but I could muster the courage to tell my dad, especially, that his son was not going to be a doctor anymore, because he was so. My mom was a doctor, but my dad's pride, when throughout those years of their career, it was like I've never experienced it before. He was feeding my ego, because it was just an external validation.
How was that
There was
experience
nothing
when you told them that? When you told them you were done, like what was their reaction?
Oh my God. My mom was, yeah, I know. My mom knew from the beginning that my aptitude, my attitude, and my willingness for that was never going to be there. She said, but my dad's will was bigger than my mom's will. So that's why it's important when you are a parent to go to bat for your kid when you know better. My mom knew better, and God bless my mom. My mom loves me, and I love my mom, but she should have known better, and she should have guided me at 16, because you don't go to college over there before you go straight to career. At 16, I didn't know better. An artist, that was not a thing. Where I'm from, artist. There's no painters. There's no musicians. It was such a small town. Ain't was nobody doing that.
That's a
An
luxury.
acting class? It didn't exist. It wasn't even a luxury. A dancing class was something fun to do. It was yeah, my kids are dancing. It
A
was just
hobby. A
bullshit.
hobby.
Yeah, it's bullshit. I'm occupying my kid in that. So when I tell my dad, I could barely speak the few words. I said, I'm done. He said, what do you mean? I said, I'm done with medical school. Woo!
Se acabó el cordón.
Woof. Just I couldn't. It was like a kid when he tells his dad that he broke his favorite, vase or whatever. And my dad, in his way of making sense to me, he says, "Then leave." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Leave. Go to America." And I said, "Yeah, I should. What am I doing here? Yeah, I should just go to America." And boom, it hit me like a rock. And then I told him, I'm leaving. He said, "What? Who gave you this idea? It's a stupid idea." It was so stupid. Nobody. When I was 20, I was insane in Venezuela in 2013 by leaving. There was not a single soul that said, "Wow, so you should," because things were going well. Chavez just died. Maduro was about to take power. Nothing had really deteriorated as fast as it did. So when I told everybody, when I was saying goodbye to people and say, "Hey, by the way, I'm gone," they said, "What? You have a job, you have a girlfriend, you have medical school, you're making some money now, and you're about to leave everything?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, I'm gone." And now most of my friends are gone too. But at that period of my time, it was so much input. I was trying to feel a mold. I knew that it wasn't true to my soul. It was my ego. It was, oh my God, I'm putting up. My God, I'm presenting to people like I'm a doctor. I'm done. I made it. Even if I don't make no money, I have the prestige. I have the social hierarchy. That is, it does exist. Don't get me wrong. It's not like that doesn't exist. But when it's not connected to your soul, what you were saying, right? When it's not connected to your soul, it's just ego feeding. And there will be a point in time where you would just break. Either the outside idea breaks or you break inside. And for me, I broke inside first. Because thankfully I didn't kill nobody. That was one of my first fears. I'm gonna be a doctor. Oh my God. God bless.
You're gonna
that
kill
I
somebody
don't kill
by
nobody.
malpractice. I thought you were like, you were
Because
gonna
I
fucking
saw-
murder somebody? What happened,
No.
bro? That karate went way too far. Your karate went way too far.
Because I was such a bad student. I would be a terrible doctor. Terrible doctor. The worst. One of the worst. Has to be one of the worst.
So when you left Venezuela and you went to the States, did you know right away you wanted to do what you're doing now, or did that take time?
Yes. No. Immediately. There was only one reason why I came.
And how did
to
you
be
know
an
that?
actor.
How did you know you wanted to, like, because while you were studying medicine, was that always something in the back of your head, or right when you, like, I want to, if you can go into depth of that, like, okay, so you told your dad this, he told you to go to the States, then you said, "Oh, fuck it, I'm going to the States." And then he's like, "That's a horrible idea." Did you know right then and there, like, I want to act?
Yes. I want to pursue acting. My
How long did
main
you know that
problem
for? How long did you know that for?
I was gonna ask
beforehand?
that. That's a good question.
I've always known, because when I was a kid, I loved attention. I
Okay.
didn't know what to do with it.
Now
I
it's like
love
full
attention.
circle. Okay.
I love attention. But growing up, one thing that I was always fascinated by is to live as many lives as possible. And when you're an actor and you do proper work, you live experiences that otherwise you would never experience. Because when you go into a role and you have the proper tools to put yourself in that world as close as possible, you are putting another life into your backpack. What you were talking about, right? It's a difference, and I tell my friends this: no knock on third countries. 10 years in a third world country and 10 years in a first world country, it's two separate lives. I would live 3 times as much as you would live in a third world country. You live in Europe for 10 years and you got the guts to travel. You lived 10 years at a much bigger pace, rate, and experiences than somebody from Ecuador that has been to all over Ecuador. It's just you can't. Same when you are an actor and you have put. That's why actors get better with age. It's not a lot of them. It's not because they have more experiences. It's because they did more work. They have more lives. They have more experiences. Their soul has grown. That's why I knew I wanted to be an actor, because I was obsessed with the idea of living multiple lives within mine. More. I want to live more. I want to have more experiences. Pack them, put them on my backpack, so that when I'm gone, the book is left, but I also lived.
Well, I had an acting teacher out here who said there were certain it was for an on-camera auditioning class. His name was Robert Davanzo, really good guy, and very good teacher as well. And he would give us sides like 2 days before class, and we'd have to come in and we'd have to perform them as if it was an audition. And certain roles, some people would go up there sometimes and do it, and and he would say certain things like, it technically sound, you guys give what you had, you just haven't lived enough life yet.
Mm-hmm.
For certain things, right? Because some people are like, I'm trying to get there and I can't get it. He goes, it's not your fault. You just haven't lived enough life yet.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, like you just said, actors get better with age. And you just said something else as well that I've always subscribed to, which is at the end of my life, I want to have a encyclopedia of a book of life rather than a pamphlet. Yeah. Right. And I remember I got into this argument with my mom when I was young, and because I was doing some stupid shit. I don't remember. I did something that was dumb. And she was like, why would you do that? And I go, because I want to have experiences. I want to have experiences. And she's like, but you could have gotten hurt. And I was like, but I didn't. And I want to have memories. I want to have memories. One day when I'm going to have my mom on, we're going to have the moms on, and I'm going to ask mom, because I'm sure she remembers that shit. Right. Because I was like, I want to fucking have memories. Now, little did I know. I mean, I was like, I don't remember, 14 or 15. I don't fucking remember how old I was when I said that. Over time, you're going to have memories. And I tell people this all the time when they first are thinking about moving to LA or whatever. I go, you got to get up and fucking get off the couch and do work, because no matter what, that sun's going to go up, that sun's going to go down, the moon's going to come up, the moon's going to go down, and you are going to be making experiences and memories, whether or not you're sitting on the couch every day. That will be the life that you live, is sitting on the couch every day, or whether you go out and fucking make the most out of what you're doing. No matter what, time is going to pass. Mm-hmm. So, and in my life, I always give myself about a 3-year time period. And what I mean by that is I measure my life in 3 years, because the seeds that I plant today se sembran en como 3 años. They usually come to fruition or manifest themselves and show certain things 3 years after that, is what I've noticed in my life from just pure observational standpoint. So whenever I do something and I go, am I really in this? Am I really in this? I have to have a conversation. If I say, yeah, I go, I got to give myself 3 years. That's what when I first moved out to LA, I didn't have any fucking notion, nothing. I was in the hospital for like 6 days. I had diverticulitis. I had a super bad infection. I lost 16 pounds in that time frame. I had just graduated college. I was supposed to be in a play. I couldn't be in a play in Miami. Whatever. The point is, I remember looking out that window when I was in the hospital and just thinking, fuck it, let's just go out there and see what's out there. Like it was literally nothing to like, let's go and be a success. I'm gonna be the best fucking actor. I was like, I could be dead right now. If it wasn't for modern medicine, I probably would be dead personally.
Yeah.
So why not just go out and see what the other side of the country has, period. And just see what the experience of that was. And just, I think doing that gave me the proper mindset moving out here, because then it was all just about experiencing and putting my head down rather than attributing it to, instead of it being process oriented, it was, some people move out here with the goal orient, right? Where they think, I'm going to be in a Marvel movie. I'm going to be on a regular on a TV show in 2 years. And that's cool. I always tell people, man, hey, cool, good for you. I'm glad that you have aspirations. I'm really happy for you. What are you doing to do that? And some people are like, I'm an actor. And I go, oh, okay, cool. You like in a class? Or no, I don't do classes. I just act. All right, cool. So you're reading a book, or you reading a book, or like, yeah, no, I'm like, cool. I'll take my latte now. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. You know what I mean? Like, it's, if you're not doing something, you can't expect fucking Martin Scorsese to call you when you're sitting on your couch at home. You know, that's just not how shit happens. It's just not. So it was all that is to say, like, you were just sparking off some things in my head with the backpack, putting things in your backpack. I remember Shia LaBeouf talked about learning how to play golf for that golf movie he did, The Greatest Game Ever Played. I remember thinking, I'm like, God, that'd be so fucking cool to have to learn how to do something for a movie. That would be so freaking cool to have to learn how to do something. And it all goes back to that, how many lifetimes can you cram into one? You know, that type of thing.
You can't beat time. You can't beat time
Nope.
in the exercise of what you're talking about, the process, because there's nothing. You can accelerate the experience by doing it as much as possible, right? Which is, well, essentially what we're trying to do. We're trying to create the process, but yet we want to spend as much time as possible. That's why I envy musicians and producers, by the way, because they have the chance to just hop on the studio. There's a studio. They just hop on the studio. You have to pay for it, whatever, you have to build it, all of it. But you just pop on the studio and you go and you're there. When you are an actor, it's way more esoteric. It's way more different. There's no studio. There's no, I get there, work, close the door, bye. No, I get there, work. It doesn't exist unless you are on a theater group and you have the opportunity to really do it. That's why you see these people that they just grow. They just grow. There's actors that have been taught, and there's actors that have taught themselves whilst being in the process when they are child actors. They just grow and they fall in love. They find their own process, and through the work, they find their way. There's other actors that have been properly trained, beautifully trained, guided, and then they have to struggle with the other side of it, with create consistent, a body of work consistent enough that feeds on your growth. That's why Matthew McConaughey stopped doing rom-coms. He could have died doing rom-coms. And he said, fuck that. I'm not growing. No, opposite way. And you see it and you think, oh my, yeah, it makes sense. And then he wins an Oscar. Fuck. Be in that situation when you are getting offered money for 4 months of work,
Millions of dollars.
Live work, you're having fun, they're feeding your ego to the nonstop, and make the difficult decision.
That's wild. He did that,
bro. That's a beautiful interview. If you haven't heard his,
to leave a world where he was peaking at.
Yeah.
Because he
didn't
he do How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days or something like that?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah,
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, Made in
Treasure
Manhattan.
I remember when he made those like
Fool's gold,
string of
fool's
movies, I'm
gold.
like,
Fool's gold.
now that I think about it, I'm like, he could have done that to his dying days, and he probably would have been the biggest. He would have been. Him and Brad Pitt could have been the two guys, just legends. In a sense where it was like, you know what I'm saying though, with the long
Yeah, I do know.
hair,
Yes,
the
I know what
googly
you're saying,
eyes,
RoboCop.
but they both but they both just pit. I froze again.
Yeah.
I froze.
Yeah,
but
but
we can hear you.
we're
We can
hearing
hear,
what
we can
you're
hear
saying.
You. We can hear you.
You
Yeah.
just froze.
Can you still hear me? Am I still frozen though?
Yeah.
Should I exit and come
You
back
look
in?
like
Let
you're
me
on
stop.
Cuban Wi-Fi. Oh,
Yeah.
he just left.
about now?
And he's
Yeah,
back.
and you're back.
Am I frozen?
Yeah, we see you. No.
No, we see you.
you
I see
right.
you.
I stopped the video and put it back on.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean these two guys, especially Matthew McConaughey, the way he pivoted too was very, in my eyes, like he went into a very abstract world of genre of films, right? It was like action but not action, very thought provoking.
Oh, bro, he completely hit the pivot on. I mean, I'm
He bet
sure.
on
Have you
himself.
read his book? Have you read his book, Odell? His book, George. If you haven't read it, you should read it. I really like it a lot. But he talks a lot about he talks about this, and there's another interview with him talking about it. How he could do this in his sleep, right? He was getting offered these roles, and he was able to do it in his sleep, and he wasn't growing. So he took a conscious effort to leave in the event that it would be scarce. It would be relative famine to what he was used to, and that's what happened. He was like not getting anything for a year, 2 years, because people were like, that's the rom-com guy. What are you talking about? That's one thing in Hollywood that I have noticed is there's very little creativity when it comes to the top of the totem pole, when it comes to like the people that tend to hire. For instance, you see how my last name right now says Rossi?
Mm-hmm.
I came out here and I was just going by Isaac Rossi, right? My birth last name was Gonzalez, but I did Rossi because my stepdad legally adopted me when I was 12. He's my dad. He raised me since I was 1. That's my dad. And anyways, I did Isaac Rossi. That's his last name, but I speak Spanish, right? I'm Cuban. My agent would pitch me and people would say, but his last name is Rossi. And he goes, yeah, but he's Hispanic. He's Cuban. Yeah, but Rossi's not a Hispanic last name. He can't come in for this Hispanic role. And my agent would be like, he is Cuban from Miami. He speaks Spanish. So then my agent was like,
their time based off the name.
well, no, it's just that they, for whatever reason, couldn't get it through their head that I could speak Spanish. And then when I changed my last name to Isaac Gonzalez Rossi, that's what I go by now. I started getting a shit ton of auditions. I don't want to say a shit ton, but I started getting more auditions for Hispanic roles because now I just had Gonzalez in there. So they're like, hey, there's a Hispanic last name. That guy must be Hispanic, you know? But if, for instance, then I had the Netflix film come out and I only got auditions pretty much for that same type of role after that. Right. And
You cut out. I think it goes into like idle mode or something like that.
it's just, I don't, maybe I have to
move
my mouse a little bit more because I sit back and I just watch and then I don't move my mouse. So maybe that's what it is. But anyways, going back to Matthew McConaughey and talking about that scarcity and something actually I wanted to talk to. Oh, I'm frozen. I don't know if you guys can still hear me.
No,
yeah,
you're still
okay.
good. You're good.
That anonymity. I wanted to talk about being anonymous because I actually saw Hugh the other day. George, he came by. He was here for like 3 hours. And if you guys have to leave too, let me know because I'm rolling right now.
Dale.
Matthew McConaughey talked about how when he became anonymous, that really helped his career because it kind of gave him sort of second life in the industry because now people didn't see him anymore. They forgot about him. He's like, the industry forgot about me. So when I came back, it was kind of
You cut out.
a new mouse that time, and I was moving my mouse. So can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So when he left, because he's also the type of guy. He's like, I'm gonna go and take a raft down in Peru, and I'm just gonna ride down the river and see where this African fucking tambourine leader's gonna take me. You know, that's like Matthew McConaughey. It's just that fucking guy. It's like, I'm gonna listen to the
I
leaves
just
in
want to
the trees.
ride.
I just want to
wanna
see the
ride.
leaves in the trees and see which way the water's gonna walk me. I had this dream, and there was this mother. She was Peruvian, and I made beautiful love to her. So I decided to go to Peru the next day. And I'm like, okay, bro, whatever the fuck he's saying. I fucking love him though, man. I read that shit. I'm like, hell yeah, bro. That shit's awesome. But he talked about when he became anonymous all again in Hollywood's eyes, that helped him give him a second life. So he didn't work for like 2 years, and it was scary. But then he sort of became unknown again in Hollywood, and that unknown element allowed him to be seen in different eyes. Now, something that I wanted to bring up to both of you and just pose it, because I've heard a couple of people talk about this. First, I'll talk about Frances McDormand, right? She won back-to-back Oscars for 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, and for Nomadland. And I heard her in an interview talk about how she doesn't really do social media. She doesn't really do interviews and things like that because anonymity, being anonymous, is one of the biggest tools that an actor has for an audience, meaning that when you go to a theater and you watch somebody, she's like, if you know everything about my life and you see everything on social media, you're not going to believe me as like a nun, right? Or you, and then you go the next year, you're not going to believe me as a farm worker, right? So being anonymous allows the audience to have that suspension of disbelief. So I heard her talk about that, and then I heard John Bernthal, and he has a podcast out, which is really dope. I don't know if you guys have heard it, but I really enjoy his podcast a lot. And he also talked about his reservations in starting a podcast because, being an actor, he talked about that anonymity. He was like, it's something that helps me to separate myself enough as a human, right? As like a person, and then the actor from the audience, because if all those things are all to the forefront, the audience won't believe me as the Punisher. When they see me, they're like, nah, it's John Bernthal from his podcast. I've heard him talk a lot about who he is. But then he said, ultimately, he's like, I just wanted to have conversations with people that I really respected and admired. So I guess the question I'm asking is, what do you guys think about the whole being anonymous as a power for an artist with social media, and how that kind of blends itself into one? Do you think that it's possible to still separate? What are your thoughts on those types of things for whoever wants to hit that?
I think going back to something that we kind of didn't touch on, but I think it holds a lot of value, is I believe that in order for you to really get to know yourself, you have to move far from where you grew up. And ideally, you want it to happen in your adult life before you turn 25, so that you can create new neural pathways and be more adaptable to whatever is happening. That's why it's so difficult
before the prefrontal cortex develops.
Yeah, it's because it's so much difficult for older adults to move here. That's why they don't learn English. That's why they don't really get to adapt, and kids do, right? Kids that came here when they were 6, they were pretty much American. If you don't move out, you don't have the opportunity to present yourself to the world as you would like it. Because if everybody has seen you growing up in your whole life, throughout the years, they have an idea of you. So if you want to create change, you're also wrestling with the outside input of, no, you're not that. But it's not only one group of people, it's every group of people. That's why when you move out, a lot of people say, you're acting different. You're acting strange. It might be that you had the opportunity to be who you really want to be for the first time. For the first time, you had the chance to say, nice to meet you. My name is Odell. And what do I like? I like this. I like that. I like. There's nobody on the other side saying, well, you never liked that. What do you mean? I saw you the other day. What do you mean? Right? So it creates a doubt on you. same with this being anonymous is so key as an artist. Ideally, I would love to put on a body of work and have somebody manage my social media. Here you go. Here are my photos. I want nothing, because it's true. People will check out. People will just not believe you. And even though you're doing art because it feeds your soul, you're also trying to tell a story.
Of course.
That is the idea. You want to tell a story. You want people to believe your story so that they can get a diamond out of it, so that they can get whatever their brain wants to get or needs to hear from you. But if they don't believe you because they always see you as something else, right? It will be very difficult for you to do the work that you are trying to have.
It's like The Rock. You see The Rock. I don't know. I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's an example that just hit my head. It was like, I see The Rock and I think immediately, that's The Rock. You know what I mean?
I was just thinking funny. I was just thinking about The Rock as well. But yeah, and that's why when I think of John, which I'm also a fan of his podcast, it was, and I'm just assuming, and maybe I'm wrong, he was willing to sacrifice that in order to get the podcast, because the podcast became very important for him and necessary. It's not that he was not aware that maybe his work would suffer in the eyes of the audience. He knew that, but he still was willing to put himself into, okay, my soul needs this, so I'm going to have this as well, and something else will be sacrificed. That's why balance, it's about what do you sacrifice the most. That is balance. What do you sacrifice the most? But consciously, right? Oh, I want to have a work-life balance. There's none of that. You're mediocre on both sides. Yeah. You want to be amazing? Time at work, time at your family, time with the person you love, time with your friends. You cannot be balanced. How? You multiply the time? It's impossible. So you sacrifice things in different aspects of your life in order to achieve growth in that avenue. So they're sacrificing. Whoever has a social media is always on social media, and you're an actor and you're trying to tell a story. You know you're sacrificing the truth of what they will see you for the first time. That's why you don't see the actor from Lincoln,
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Daniel Day-Lewis. You don't see him. He disappears. The last thing I heard, he was learning how to make shoes in Italy.
Yeah, that's the cobbler story. That was before Gangs in New York. That's what that was the whole thing for that one.
You don't see him, right? You don't see that person, and then you believe him because you don't have an elaborated idea of him before. That's what
that's beautiful. That's fucking beautiful.
That's what I think. What Matthew saw. He said, "Wow, I'm without a job from a year or 2 years." Well, who? But nobody remembers anymore. So I get the chance to present myself how I want to be presented.
You control the narrative.
Yeah. You also have to know that there's a narrative, right? So it's a little bit of outside awareness of how people are perceiving you. You also have to have a little bit of that, because we live in a society that's a contact sport. We're always in contact with people, right? There will be a moment where you would need to get something from somebody else. That's why you want to be true, and you want to be honest to yourself, and you also want to remember that whatever you're doing is going to have an impact. So you choose what you can control, and you choose what you want to be completely honest about, and deal with whatever impact is going to have on the world, right? Because a lot of it is uncontrollable. But there are things that you also don't want to do because of the impact it will have on the world. It doesn't matter if it is true to you, right? Because it might be your ego trying to save yourself, trying to say, no, I'm being good to myself, so I'm going just to tell you off. And then that has a negative impact on the world. But if I'm going to be true to myself, I'm going to lock myself down and be at work and on my craft, don't matter what the world thinks, that's a positive look on the outside world. I'm creating this for my soul, regardless of what's going to happen.
I think a really big takeaway I had was you saying that you need to leave your home before you fully grow up.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also have to I'm going to take a piss, but you guys keep talking. I will be right back, and I'll be listening.
I'm going to take a quick one too. Actually, I got to take a quick one too.
Okay. Let's just take a quick piss break. Quick piss break.
right,
I have to pee so bad. I'm so sorry.
But why are you turning the camera off?
Because I want you to see me.
Is that
That's- right behind? That's fucked up.
Oh, dear God, I feel better. Thank God. Thank you. God, I had to pee so bad, bro. This has been the best conversation we've had so far, bro. This has been awesome. Thank you for your time, brother.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you
dog.
guys for hearing my crazy thoughts.
Are you kidding, bro? This shit is awesome. This is the type of shit I live for, And I was something else that I was talking to my boy. Hugh is our mutual friend as well that we've known since we were 4. We're talking about perception the other day. You were talking about how, now is a contact sport, right? You're saying that life is a contact sport. And he and I were talking about Instagram and how on his Instagram, right? Because he's a DJ as well. Him and George work together and they do various events around South Florida and things like that. And they've done like some events in New York and shit like that. And they're part of this collective called KTLO. It's like Atlanta, New York, and Miami. And essentially what he was talking about was on his Instagram now, it's a bunch of pictures of him DJing, right?
Who's this?
So Hugh, he and I were talking about this the other day about perception and how, huh?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
You're still RoboCop slushy, but
For
we
real?
can still hear you. No, you're okay. You're okay. It's okay. Just don't. Oh.
You cut out. I messed it all up.
You're on Cuban Wi-Fi and I have the Cuban microphone, bro. This fucking thing. I literally have gone on Reddit to try and find, and all it says is it's the cable. So like moving the cable. It's not that the cable's faulty. It's that it's moving the cable around. So I fucking move this shit around all the time, and this shit's still whatever, bro. Going back to the perception. He is a software engineer. And he worked for Lyft in San Francisco, and now he works for a startup. But he, over the past, I would say, how long has you been DJing, George? Like 4 or 5 years, something like that? 3 or 4 years?
I'd say like 2 or
let's
3.
Just say let's just say 3 to 5, right? He's always been interested in music, but anyways, he's had like this what he says night job, right? So when people say, "What do you do?" He goes, "You want to know day job or night job?" So his night job.
You cut out.
Cago en la mierda, bro. What the f?
You're good now.
All right. So people now see him as when he meets them, and he was in Coachella talking to this girl or whatever, and he could see that she was eyeing him a little different after she looked him up on IG, some shit like that. But the point is, he goes, bro, people are looking at me differently now.
Yeah.
Because they see me on Instagram and they see these pictures of me and they immediately see, oh, this dude, he says he's a DJ and he's DJing in fucking New York. You know, they look at the pictures, they see where it's at, they see the location, blah, 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 all this shit. And they're like, oh, they're perceiving me different, right? So he goes, that's why I love coming to your crib, because, you know, I fucking make fun of him because that's just what we do. Because I'm like, bro, he has intuition tatted on his thigh. And I'm like, you have intuition, the word intuition on your thigh? Are you fucking kidding me? What? That is the dumbest fucking tattoo I've ever heard of in my life. And I said, and I love you for it, dog. I will never stop making fun of you for it. I think it's dope. I think it's awesome. If you need to, you know, while you're dando pajita and you got to look down, you're like, oh, intuition. I'm like, yeah, whatever, dog. Whatever you gotta do. Good for you, bro. But the point is that
it's because we know each other.
Like, yeah, and he comes over and he's like, it's dope because you see me as Hugh. You don't see me as like DJ, you know, blah blah blah, whatever, all this shit.
Yeah.
And you talk to me about that, and I go, damn, dog, I think right now is the first time that I thought about how other people perceive you. I didn't think about that, right? And that was the first time that I was like, yeah, other people might see you in this manner. And he asked me, he was like, I'm sure you've had a little bit of that after your movie came out as well. And I was like, and I started to think about it, and I thought, yeah, a little bit. I mean, not to absurd degree that he has, but like, for instance, in my acting class, this guy told another guy that was in it that I had a movie on Netflix. So the guy watched it, and the next week that I saw him, he was like, hey, bro, I saw your movie. And I could just notice like a little, and the guy's a really nice, genuine guy, but just like a little shift in the way that he perceived me after that. And yeah, I think it's a normal human reaction to have a shift in perception. I love that you said we're in a contact sport as society. It's a contact society, because I think that's I've never thought of it that way. I've never thought of it as like a contact sport, because it's true. We're constantly in contact with each other through social media, through just the advent of all these technologies. I think that we are constantly in contact with each other, much like a contact sport. And I just think that's fascinating, just thinking about how the feeding of the soul in the moment, because no matter what, you're going to be in contact, right? So I think that anonymity is one of the hardest things to achieve nowadays. It truly is one of, maybe not the hardest thing, but it's harder than it was before.
Well, think about the greatest at what they have done in history. If you look at painting, if you look at music, if you look at actors, if you look at musicians, whatever, there was such a long period of time that it was just dark and nobody knew who they were. What that gives you the opportunity is to fully form who you want to be in advance of who you are right now, right? Who you want to be is not obviously who you are right now. So that dark period of time gives you the opportunity to get better. So whenever, that's why famous people speak that nothing changed on them. It's just the outside world change. The way people talk to them, the way people say hi to them, it changes. That's why you cannot, it's naive of you to think that we don't live in a hierarchy society. We think higher of people based on what they're doing, who they are, if it aligns with our interest. If you're Amish and you meet Brad Pitt, who's that?
Yeah.
Who's that? So you go about the things that are interesting to you.
But you meet the best butter churner. If you meet the best butter churner in that society, you're gonna be like, God, that's fucking
whoa,
Joe Bob,
that's so and so.
Yeah, Joe Bob fucking Mantequilla. Look at that fucking guy, bro.
Whoa,
he makes the best butter in the world.
You have to be also aware that there's a hierarchy aligned with what you do, what you achieve. But the dark time is where you put in the work in what it's aligned to you. It could be aptitude related to your aptitude, or it could be something that is aligned with your soul and is more of a passion situation. whatever it is, one or the other, depending on your achievement on those things, people will react differently.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you cannot be attached to the goal that people will react to it, because otherwise you're just letting your ego roam, take control, and then you get lost. Then you just get lost, right?
And that's why child stars, I find it fascinating listening to them. People that reach this amount of success, boom, right off the bat, tend to not develop past that point in time, right? I've heard a theory or somebody talk about it. I'm sure you guys maybe have heard of it, but it's one of those things that's like, I think Jason Bateman was talking about it. If a child star reaches this level of fame, let's say at 12, they usually stay there mentally even when they're like 30. It's very hard for them to develop past that, because that's the point in which everybody started perceiving them at this. So they're like, you're this,
You
this
redline.
is you. Yeah. And I think that dark age is what you were just saying, you know, it's fucking hard, right? In terms of feast or famine when you're starting out. But those dark ages really helps you develop who you are, like you're saying, which is a beautiful point, because then by the time that you do garner some form of success, or your body of work has spoken for itself, and you're able to know who you are in that, no matter what the other people perceive you as, you know what you are. Right. Now that's not to say that you're not going to develop further in certain ways or avenues and things like that. But that notion of knowing who you are, dude, it's so vital. That I could not have survived in LA if I moved out here when I was 18. I mean, I could have survived, but I think I would have fucking gotten lost in the sauce personally.
Yeah.
When I was 18, bro, in LA, people, I would have gone. I would have gone buck wild. I went buck wild in Orlando, and in LA. Oh, dude, I don't know that I would have had the proper mentality to really understand discipline, to understand putting my head down, to understand sort of blocking out distractions and temptations. I allowed for temptations to almost wash over me when I was 18. I was like, I'm tempted to do this. Let's fucking do it. You know what I mean? I don't think I stopped myself, because I didn't have the mental cognizance of understanding, if I do A, then B will probably happen. And if B happens, C will suffer because of that. Or C is, there are going to be repercussions on C because I decided to do A, right? I don't think I understood the consequence sort of, you know, things that would happen because of that, you know, and
there's a difference between, sorry to interrupt you. There's a difference between an action that you do really solely for the purpose of the action, and an action that you have the notion that it could be detrimental to your future. Because working on your craft, you can work on your craft or you can go drink. You don't know what's going to happen, neither or the other. You can go drink and then meet the person who will propel your career. You don't know it, but you have a notion that one thing is better than the other. When you are young and you don't have that barometer, you're just thinking, I'm just going to go with whatever I want to do. I want to please myself now. And then the time passes and you have nothing to account for. Nothing. You didn't develop, you didn't grow, you didn't achieve. And if you really want to be joyous in life, you need some form of progress. You need some form of progress on yourself.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How do you I guess that was a question. Can I ask you a question? But another one. How do you view milestones that you achieved? How do you weigh that? Like, because I've sensed that you like progress. You're very progress oriented. How do you stop sometimes and turn around and look and say, you know, do you pat yourself on the back for things that you've done?
Sometimes, and it's not patting myself in the back. It's more like, whoa, look at where we are. It's not look at what I have achieved. No, it's wow. Yeah, it's
like not what I did, but like where that took me.
Yes. Yes. It's more like, I can't believe I'm here. It's not, I can't believe I did all of this work and I put myself here, because there was people along the way that without them, nothing. That's why the contact, it was prevalent and it's impossible to ignore. Could say to myself, oh, I came by myself to Miami. Who gave me shelter in Miami? My cousin, right? There was somebody, right? Even though you want to go all self-indulgent on yourself, it's impossible that it was like that. So whenever I look at my life, if something that I can think of is, wow, I was thinking smaller than I thought. As I go back 10 years, I go back 15 years, and I look at my life now and I think, wow, incredible. You're an actor in LA? An actor? You made it, right? You made it. I just wanted to be an actor, right? I just wanted to be an actor. What I really wanted is to just have the courage to tell the world that I was an actor. That it took so much time to muster up the courage to say that that was something that I did. And now that I look back at it, and I think all of my wildest dreams have become true. All of them. 15 years ago, I look back and I thought, wow, I was thinking so small because I achieved those things. So that's why now my exercise is to think, is to force myself, because it's so difficult to measure with the stick your reality with what you hope to go. The sniper aims beyond the mark to the other side of the mark, but it's difficult to get yourself into that practice of just go beyond the mark, like far, far away to the impossible, to the woof. If I tell this to somebody, they will say I'm fucking out of my mind. That's where you have to practice going, because what happens if you get there and it was a shorter range than you thought you could get? Because that's what happened to me. Got to this range and I thought, my dream car was a Toyota Corolla.
Really?
Wow.
And I had it, right? My dream car. Oh my God, a Corolla. Whoa. If I only had a Corolla, poof.
Wow.
My God, nobody can talk to me. Ain't nobody can talk.
That was humbling right there, what I just heard.
Yeah. And you have these dreams that you think they're so big, yet it's more likely that they exist. It's more likely than what you're trying to achieve. It already exists. The job already exists. The profession already exists. The person that you want to be with already is walking out there. The house you dream about having, it exists in a way, shape, or form. So that when you internalize those things, you think, oh, I just have to remove whatever is between what I want to achieve and just the noise. And the noise is most of the time created by you. Most of the time, the noise is just you. Okay, there's gonna be this, and that, and that's why the obstacle is unsurmountable, and I can't even see, right? So for some people, they have practiced their power, the power to manifest, and the power to have actionable results that will take them there so much that things seem to be happening faster. But I'm pretty sure everybody had their dark period of things were not working out. Things were not working out. And that's when doubts creep in, and that's when you think, oh, maybe I don't have it like that. Maybe this is just not for me. So if you're on a path that it's not connected to your soul, it's easy to give up. If you don't have good enough reasons not to give up, give up. If you cannot go pass beyond 20 years and say and think, my God, I'm gonna be 50. Would I look back and say it was a good idea to quit? No, then don't quit. If you look back at 60, 70, 80, and you say, my God, I'm glad I quit that shit. I'm glad I quit fucking medical school. You need to know what to quit.
Isn't that crazy? You can kind of speak to your future self. Like they're
Yeah.
there somewhere in the ether, and like you can
Yeah.
really like
You only hope
like call and response with your future self.
you only hope that when you meet your future self, you're meeting a twin and not an unrecognizable person.
Wow.
You
'Cause
only
you're
hope
on
that when
that
you
pa-
meet him,
Ooh.
you only hope that when you meet him, you say, what's up, motherfucker? It's not like, oh my God, this is who I could have been. It's like, oh, and that person telling you, if you just stick with it, you could have. If you just weather the storm, you could have come home and come to this. And I think about that when I'm 50. I'm thinking about, I don't know why I think about 50. It's such a landmark. When I think about 50, I want to get to a place where I meet my future Odell and say, what's up, man? Yeah, I knew it. Fucking knew it. Yes, I fucking knew it. This is, yes. And look, validation. Look, you and me, mirror. Look. I fear that when I meet him, it's just, wow, man. Oh, fuck. I messed that up. You know? You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're just listening to you, bro.
Yeah.
If I get it from time to time with Isaac, but now I'm really sensing it of we're all in a creative space, right? We're all in the arts, but there's something really particular, and this is coming from someone that's in the arts, like I said. There's something really interesting and particular about being an actor, man. Like,
yeah,
because because you're in front of a camera, where what I do is a lot more behind the scenes, right? So it's like, how much do you want to give yourself? And it goes in anonymous, how to the world, they're not and it can be a very slippery slope, like you're saying. When you're 50, you fear losing yourself in the process, and then you're unrecognizable to yourself. Am I frozen again?
No, we can hear
Hold
you.
on,
You're just slushy. You're 7-Eleven right now.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna
you're
call you
frozen now
7-Eleven.
too, though. That's how bad.
RoboCop,
All right, let me go.
7-Eleven,
Can you see
baby.
me
Get
now?
out. You need to leave
Yeah.
the 7-Eleven
Can
and
you see me
go
now?
home. Yeah. Yeah,
the
we can see you.
Starbucks. You need to
No.
leave the
Yeah,
Starbucks.
Yeah, go.
The
Yeah.
runner is so far from my room. The
Yeah,
runner
but
is
this is
so
the
far
first
from my
time
room.
that
What it do?
it's been
Oh,
so
next time.
janky, bro. The other
Yeah.
times have been pretty
I don't
solid, but right
understand
now
why.
it's like,
Bro, I'm not even on my home Wi-Fi. I'm on my hotspot. That's how bad the Wi-Fi was earlier.
Oh, damn.
bro,
I
you
don't know if it's
literally
the
look
weather or
like
what.
dial-up right now. You look like dial-up internet.
Really?
It's
It
very
looks like
funny.
it looks like 2012 internet.
Yeah, bro.
This is so bad.
Well, no, you're fine. It's fine. But
I think it's
to
just,
what
I'm
you
gonna
were
switch back.
speaking, dog, you're chill.
Okay.
To what you were speaking about was, you know, how much do you want to give up in front of a camera? And
That's what I'm saying.
I would
It's
argue
such a slippery
you gotta
slope.
give, but you gotta give everything, dog. That's in my opinion. And
That
what
I
that
agree
means,
with, but what he was saying about being anonymous, like you don't have to give up everything all the time.
oh
You mean
no,
outside of the camera? Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yes.
like I see it, I didn't think of it like that. To me, it was like, I'm thinking from a producer's standpoint. You guys are in front of the camera, I'm behind the scenes. So
Mhm.
it's,
Yeah.
I had that in the back of my mind, but now you brought it to the front of my mind of the fear of the 50-year-old telling you like, bro, you lost your way, you know? So I think that's something that it helps for everyone to be conscious of, but we can lose sight of that at times. And to harp back on, to like kind of circle back on what you're saying of, because Isaac asked, I forgot what the question was, but your response was, I think it's very important to leave your house before you fully are grown up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing that my family did when we were young, from a young age, was travel a lot. And I think the greatest educator or teacher is traveling.
Yeah.
Because my dad even told me, he's like, you guys appreciate things because I knew it could do more if I showed you than told you. Because kids don't like to be told what to do
Absolutely,
or to
yeah.
hear their grandparents. Back in my day, you know, we did things
Nobody
this
cares.
way. Nobody
Yeah.
cares. But if you
Yeah.
go and show them, like every time I used to go back to Colombia, my dad used to show us the 3-story house he lived in with like 10 other cousins. Knocked on the door, didn't know who lived there, and told them, hey, I bring my kids here every summer or every 2 summers. Can we
Wow.
walk in? And they're like, yeah, come in. And my dad said, that's the room I slept in with my 5 other cousins.
Wow.
And then the 5 other cousins were on the 2nd floor. And his grandparents were on the 3rd floor while his parents were in Chicago sending money back.
Wow.
So it's like traveling, and I think understanding other cultures and just seeing the world is one of the greatest teachers, to where now when we're, like we said, 10 years removed of experience without being a child, is fully understanding that 40-year-old or 50-year-old whispering in our ears saying like, don't get to this point and we don't know each other. Like keep that intact of your spirit of what's your why, what's your reason.
And by the way, that person can continue to change. You know, that person it would evolve. It would not be the same person that you thought at 20, and that's okay. But the main thing is that you cannot be afraid of that person to be amazing. Whoever that person looks like, or whatever it looks like, it has to be your own idea of fucking amazing. Doesn't have to be great, because greatness it's more
different.
of a greatness is it's more of an outside response.
Yeah, it's
but
subjective.
it has to be amazing to you. It has to be, whoa,
I
hey,
did that.
Yo, what's up, man? Yo, what's up?
Yo lo sabía. Look at that
Yeah,
badass
look at that.
motherfucker, bro.
And I used to be
Look
very
at that.
complacent growing up because, like I said, all I cared about was soccer and nothing else. So sleeping in, not taking my craft seriously, not even thinking it was something that could be taken seriously. And we had a friend, she's still our friend, Bianca. She said it one time because she was a go-getter, and she said, if your dreams don't scare you, you're not dreaming hard or big enough.
Yeah.
Like on the other, like your biggest dreams are on the other side of fear. But at times I used to be like, why am I not on the path that I know I can be on or should be on? And I didn't know the answer, because you think more of it's like your deficiencies, but more, no, it's like, it's walk up to fear and have a conversation with your fear, in a sense. So then it could let you through the door of like,
explain that.
So to me, it was more so of like, am I not good enough? Do I not have the tools? And it's like, no, we all have the tools if we really dig down deep and use our tools that we know in our endeavors. So what is the answer? And I think the answer is just really, it's fear, because fear is what paralyzes you, right?
Yeah.
So if you walk up to your fear and you approach it and you try to conquer it, or just get comfortable with the uncomfortable, then on the other side of that door is those dreams that you thought were too big, or dreams that you didn't even dream of because fear was stunting the growth of your thought process.
Yeah.
So
fear, what you're mentioning right now, it talks about when you let fear just grow in your mind, it paralyzes you. But when you are able to speak to your fear, like you say, it loses power, it loses the grip on you. Fear doesn't go away a lot of the times. Just the courage shows up, and then you do it with fear, right? But it's about having tools also, and knowing what that conversation looks like in your mind when it's the fear just growing at a rapid pace, that it would paralyze you. Before you get there, you have to be willing to speak on it, either write it, either do a fucking monologue. What the beautiful thing about our artistry is that you can do stuff with your suffering or your fear. So whatever outlet you have that is artist related is something that somebody that doesn't do art will never have. Never, because they don't have a way to express. That's why the best actors that I know are they're introverts. You think actors, oh my God, no, actors must be just the walk on the crowd and all that. No, a lot of the most amazing, I haven't met an extroverted actor that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are introverts, are thinkers, are ponders, are observers. That when they need to say something, they say it through a role. They say it through somebody else's words, because it also loses the power. It's not they are my words, but I didn't write them, but I'm gonna say them, and I also using it as an outlet. Yes, that's why it goes back to being anonymous. When you are an introverted and you are anonymous and nobody knows you, it's power. When you're an introverted and everybody knows you, it has to be depleting. I can only imagine. I'm an ambivert. I didn't know that existed recently. I am an extroverted and I am an introverted. I can be talking to a party. I could be talking in a party with a stranger, but I also hate small talk.
Mm-hmm.
I can be.
What did you call it? What is it called? What's it called?
Ambivert.
Ambivert. I've never heard that.
Yeah, and now it makes sense to me. But I can be on a party in a deep dive conversation with a stranger, but I cannot do, hey, how you doing? Hey, what's up? What's life?
That's exhausting.
How are you?
It is. It's so
right.
exhausting.
But you say
it's not even exhausting. It's just wasting time. You feel like you're wasting time.
But you say you're exhausting because you are an introverted. When you are an extroverted, that's just energy.
I was always very confused because I knew from early on at a young age I was an introvert, but I used to tell Isaac this all the time. I'm like, dude, it doesn't make sense to me because when I'm around you and my friends, I'm like, I can talk.
Yeah.
Like, I get to a point where I say isms, and he's like, I'm probably butcher it, but he's like, but that's the whole point, that you're around people that you're comfortable with and that understand you. So you're not fully introverted, but yeah, you are an introvert, but that's a good thing. Because I always thought that was very conflicting with like my personality. And I was like, why am I not like this with other people then? And I had a roommate in college where I was like, yo, if we treat everybody with like respect and kindness and treat everybody beautifully, he's like, yeah, George, but if you do that, nobody's special. And he's like, not to disrespect anybody, but there's a reason why you act like that with certain people. It's not because you're being fake with other people. It's just, it goes back to kind of like we were saying with the small talk. It just feels like wasted time, or it just feels like you're going through the motions, and some people just can't fake the funk, and I'm just one of them. I can't.
Yeah.
I really can't.
But it speaks of how you energize yourself in a contact sport. Brianna, my fiance, she just needs, and I understand it, but I cannot do what she does. She just needs to be around people. She just needs small talk. Hey, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a year. And they
Isaac's like that too. He needs to be around family and friends and people that like. I would say that, right, Isaac? If you disagree with me, like you like to be around people in the commotion, and it's not to be like center of attention or anything, which there's nothing wrong with that either. But I think he comes from a household, which I do somewhat too, but I would say for sure Isaac as well is more of like there needs to be,
interaction.
There needs to be energy. There needs to be energy in the room.
Switch my mic again. Okay, it might go out in a second, so I might have to. Let me just switch it back preemptively. Switched it back. All right. I think that after hearing ambivert, I think that is what I'm more like, because I like I told you, Odell, when we worked out, was I miss the noise of Miami. So I miss the noise of it, right? Because I grew up in a household where so my parents got married when I was 4, and I pretty much stayed with my grandparents until that time. And the way that it was mis abuelos, mi tía, y mi otra tía, they all lived 3 houses next to each other, right? My mom is the youngest of 5. So I was at my grandparents' house every day.
You cut out.
Hey. And and my aunt was my preschool teacher. She was George Michael's preschool teacher too, music teacher. So I had family around me all the time. literally every day there was había mi primo, mis abuelos, mi tía, mi tío, everybody
Family's
was
the
literally
cornerstone.
always there, and it was always loud. So I deal well with noise, with that noise. However, I'm an only child. My dad has 2 older daughters from a previous marriage. So they were already well on their way to living their lives when I was around. But I was always around my cousins and my boys and my friends. But I dealt a lot of times being alone. So I talked to Sky about this because Sky's an only child as well. And I had to learn how to entertain myself being an only child. So I had to learn how to do things where it was incredibly introverted, right? Like I literally would, when George Michael and I also bonded a lot when we were young by drawing, recreating Dragon Ball Z characters. We used to redraw Dragon Ball Z characters, right? So do you have a picture of it? Of course he does. This fucking guy.
This is from
him.
senior year in high school.
Oh my, whoa, that's pretty good.
Oh, that's Goku level Super Saiyan 4.
Say again?
That's Super Saiyan 4 Goku.
Yeah, I never finished.
Yeah.
It though, but
Wow.
That's very good, dude. So
high
that's
school.
what I'm saying. We bonded a lot by doing that. And I used to draw like crazy when I was a kid. You know, I used to play video games. I was also outside a lot. Like I used to ride my bike with the kids in the neighborhood and stuff like that. But I had a majority of my childhood was spent being introverted.
yeah,
So and having to entertain myself. So I have developed that way. And what I've learned is I'm good in a party scenario, but I'm also not good at the small talk in terms of like when somebody's like, so how you doing? I'm like, good, right? But I always typically try to enter in quickly to another conversation that's more than just that. So for instance, Sky, one of the questions that I don't like is when you tell somebody you're an actor and they're like, oh, so what have I seen you in anything? That's like usually the follow-up question. So have I seen you in anything? And it's like, depends on what you watch. You know what I'm saying? Instead, I learned from Sky, a great question to ask somebody when they're an actor is, what's your favorite thing you've ever been a part of? Or what's your favorite thing you've ever worked on? Because then it's putting the onus on them, and it's an emotional response because it could be a scene from a class. It could be, you know, that you wrote, I literally wrote an essay to myself about what the Dark Knight trilogy means to me. I wrote an essay, right?
Really?
I wrote like 5, yeah, bro. I have like a 5-page essay to myself about why that trilogy means something to me. And I've never shown anybody it because I just wrote it to myself, but it's one of those things that was incredibly important to me at a certain point in time. So going to your question and answering it, I know this is like a long-winded answer, but I definitely consider myself more of an ambivert because I call it genuine schmoozing. I know how to schmooze, but I only know how to be myself. So I only know how to genuinely do it. I don't know how to be like, so, you know, I don't even know what to ask. That's the thing. I don't even know how to act like it. I don't even know what to be like. So, you know, how's the weather out? How's the weather up in Big Bear? You know, I just
the last thing us being like Florida boys is being PC.
Well, dude, it's one of those things that I also listen to what people say a lot. So like when Sky and I leave something, I'll be like, did you hear that person said this? She's like, oh, you're right. Like I tried to listen as much as, and I got this from my mom. My mom could be listening to this conversation, that conversation, the conversation over there, everything at the same time. And she can hear all of it. She can hear and listen to like what everybody's saying. So something that my dad told me was listen with your eyes, right? Which means essentially be observant to how people are moving, because they could be saying one thing, but their body could be doing something completely different. And anyways, this is again a long-winded answer to answer your question that I do consider myself to be extroverted in a lot of ways. And I used to be incredibly shy as a kid. I was incredibly shy. But I hung out with a lot of like 50 and 60-year-olds because my dad is going to be 80 in June. And he used to be at a golf club, at a country club. So I used to have to go there and literally sit with a bunch of old dudes drinking and smoking cigars, like blowing it and like literally just asking me, hey, Iceman, because that's what he used to call me. Iceman, so what's going on in school? Huh? How you doing? You got any crushes? Huh? You got any girls? And I'd be like, I'm like fucking 4 years old. And I was like,
Like
My
the intro
toys.
to a mafia movie.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, kid, why talk to me? So what do you think about this? And I'm like, bro, I don't even know why you're looking at me. So it was, I had to deal with that because I was super shy, and I had to learn how to deal with people who were intimidating to me, to be honest. They were incredibly intimidating, I think, now more than anything. I don't think I've ever realized that. That they were intimidating because I was like a little fucking kid, and I was pegadito a mi mamá, and I was like, like that. And then my mom would be like, no, go talk to them,
Mhm.
And it taught me to be extroverted. That taught me how to deal with people who think they're the fucking shit. That's another thing. When people think they're the fucking shit out here, and they're like flaunting money and they're flaunting this, I'm like, that's dope. I don't really care. It's, in all honesty, I could care less about that rather than somebody. What really impresses me is, for instance, Odell. Okay, the quality of somebody's character in terms of when they say something and how that aligns with how they move in life. That's something that impresses me more than somebody who has a fucking giant house and all this shit, right? So when somebody says that they're something and they end up being that thing, that impresses me more than, I guess, being genuine is what I'm trying to get at eventually. Is the genuine nature of human beings. That is something that even if somebody is fucking disingenuous, but they say, I'm a fucking liar, and they are, I'm like, cool. I appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, all right, that's dope. Good for you, dog. Like, I mean, I hope you learn a little something in your life, but I appreciate you being honest,
Transparent.
and transparency. So anyways, that was a long-winded answer to say that I think that ambivert is more ideally what I am, because I have no problem. Bro, my weekends consist of me chilling with my wife and chilling at home, fucking cooking something good, we go on hikes because there's a beautiful hike out here, like 3 minutes from our crib, I have no problem not talking to anybody for a while. I have no problem.
You're definitely not an extroverted person. An extroverted person would never. So Brianna cannot be, and God bless Brianna. I'm talking about. Brianna cannot be in silence.
That's how my dad is.
And I told her that, baby, there's so much value in silence. There's so much value in just go deep into your mind and just elaborate like you were a kid. Like just imagine, just think, just double think stuff and triple think and imagine if you put this, if you put that. That's built in silence. When you are an extroverted person, you need to fill up that gap. You need that noise. And I love noise. I love loud music. I love but and we have this structure that we figure out with our couples therapy, that she was so social, and her social life was so big that was eating out my quiet time, because it was so filled, so packed. She has something going on every day, and could have, because her life is so filled with so many people, and I'm not from here, right? So it adds up to that. So we develop a schedule that she gets a weekend and I get a weekend. Her weekend consists in I will do everything that she wants me to do, related to social, whatever. In my weekend, you know what it consists of? Nothing. It's just me. And I get to just not do anything. And this replenishes me more than being around people. So when you're in contact with that, you can really say, okay, this is how I function better. Where do I need to get better at? I need to get better at developing relationships, if I'm being honest. Because even if it is small talk, I remember one time I went to the grocery store during the pandemic, and I had trouble saying hi to the teller, to the person scanning my products. And I stumbled on my words and I said, fuck, I forgot how to speak to people.
Wasn't that scary?
Yeah, and you're just awkward because you lost that contact.
Bro, this guy, I have to cut you off on this one. So he
That
he
gave me
hooked it up
chills, bro.
with a buddy pass. He hooked it up with a buddy pass to go to his gym. This fucking guy walks into the gym and everybody's talking to him. Odell walks in and the guy's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And Odell's like, "What's going on, bro?" We fucking walk upstairs. There's another guy who's like an immigrant from, where was he from? I don't even remember. Slovakia.
Lebanon.
Oh, Lebanon. And he was like, "Oh, my guy, bro." And then there's another guy came in. He's like, "I haven't seen you in a while. When's the last time you went to yoga?" And Odell's like, "I usually go these days." Like, bro, this fucking guy talks to everyone. So to hear him even say that is number one, you're improving on those relationships. But number two, it's like crazy for me to even think about you having a hard time talking to somebody.
I do have a hard time, and also because Isaac and I were talking at the beginning that to me, I've been through stages in my life where storms have proven that you only need a handful of people, right? That are gonna be there, but they need to be tested. And when you start over in a new place, you start from scratch. There's nobody. There's nobody to turn on to voice your thoughts to. Man, if I'm really in trouble, I don't even have to think. That person goes and does it for you. So when I moved to the States, and when I moved to Miami, and then when I moved to LA, in both instances, there was nobody there that I had an established relationship as a friend. So it was very difficult for me to really gauge what friendship was, because a couple of times I tried and I thought, okay, this person is my friend. Then a problem arises and they were nowhere to be found. And then I thought, and then it hardened me, and it created this barrier that slowly I need to adapt it to the context sport of what America is, what LA is, because I cannot live in a vacuum, right? I cannot be so high up on my horse that for you to be my friend, you need to, because it just doesn't work, right? It just doesn't work. So something that I'm working on is really trying to understand how society here works and how the untold rules that exist, I need to learn them. There's many untold rules in society that when you're an immigrant, you don't get a pamphlet. And years could pass and you never get it. Never. Right? So what I'm trying to work on is, okay, how do I build some form of the relationships that people have here so that I can have a more wholesome life? Right? So yeah, that's that.
I want to go back to something really quick. You were talking about the recharging of your battery, and something that I learned during the pandemic, actually, or not the pandemic, the lockdown, was you can never give from an empty cup. Well, I had learned that before, but it was more re-emphasized. It gave me more time. What's the word I'm looking? Focus to focus on that. Was to you can never give from an empty cup, and certain people have their cups drained in different ways, right? And certain people refill their cups in different ways. For me, it's a lot of that same thing too. Sitting in silence is I tell Sky I need my alone time, and it's not because I don't want to be with you. It's because I need to be with me. I need to literally just.
You cut out.
You need to be silenced. Yeah, you need to be like that, like now.
I just need to be with me. It's probably going to cut out in a second again. But I wanted to ask you a question, Odell, specific to acting. When you find that you are having trouble hitting a scene, and I'll tell you why I'm asking this. What do you find is the most useful way to get into what you need to do? And the reason why I'm asking is I heard Javier Bardem talk about silence. Go ahead, and I'll tell you what he said after.
Most likely is a form of myself judging me by judging the character. So a lot of the times when I'm not really getting there is because there's some judgment that I have stored in my mind or back in that I'm judging this person, but therefore I'm judging myself. So if I if I am unable to find why I'm judging myself like that, it will be very difficult to stop that conversation, that judgment, and really, really see myself in those shoes. And
So how do you get out of that? How do you get out of that form of judgment? How do you move away from that?
there's two things: time with the character, time with the role. It seems so simple, but why actors ask for 6 months of preparation? You just need time. It's not plug and play. Maybe a role that you're gonna get, it's very aligned to what you are, who you are, and plug and play, and then boom, you're cooking, because it's you. It's connected to you. When there's work, you also need time with the character, uncovering, peeling the onion until you, oh, this we're one. Now, from this common sense that we have, you, the character and me, what else do we have in common? How do I backtrack their life and see the things that they struggle with that I struggle with? We miss one.
George, it's okay. He left the 7-Eleven. He's going to Starbucks now.
And
that means his computer probably fucking died.
his computer died, probably.
Probably. So it's time. You're saying time and peeling away the ends that you guys are.
Yeah, emotions don't change from person to person. It's the same emotions. What triggers the emotions is what changes, right? So you have to be cognizant of the fact that the emotion is the same. The way they got there is different. You cannot work for the emotions. You can only let the emotion come to you, whatever.
Oh, dude, fuck. Yes. That's so hard to do sometimes too, for me at least, is to just let it fucking happen.
Right, because what's that about? It's about trusting.
Yeah.
It's about really giving yourself the opportunity to be present, which sounds so easy, so esoteric. Give yourself the opportunity to be present. It's one of the most fucking difficult things you will ever try to do. Same as just open your heart. That's one of the most difficult teachings that somebody has said. My teacher said, just open your heart. It's like, oh, what are you? That means it's closed. Yeah. Okay, I thought it was open. How do I unlock that? Wow.
Because the last thing our body wants to do is be vulnerable. Like our instincts are protecting us.
What is that? Your ego trying to protect yourself, right?
Oh, going back to it, baby.
Your ego is peeling the car, and I say, "Fuck that. We're not going there."
Yeah.
Because when we are vulnerable, we are a walking target. And yet, society rewards you when you want to be really vulnerable.
I know.
It's the opposite of what we think common sense is.
You know what the hardest thing is for me to do on camera?
What?
Laugh.
I don't think you're alone in that. I think I'm second to you. I'm going behind you saying that laughter is one of the most difficult things to do.
Genuinely, to get a real laughter,
don't even know what
it's
I think
the
about
hardest thing for me to do. That's
I always think about that. Like, imagine a world where there was no mirrors or no cameras.
Oh.
No, I love my vanity. I love to look myself in the mirror.
Oh yeah, dude! We have so many mirrors in our apartment, and sometimes.
But I'm saying like so you say that, but imagine a world where you love yourself so much, but it's not vanity. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously obviously that's a hypothetical. That's a hypothetical. That's not reality. Like, we live in a world of physical world. But I think if we can apply that a little more, we can get past the things like we're saying, like, I can't laugh on camera, or like even me, like listening to my voicemail makes me cringe, or
it's for me
not anymore, but at one point it did.
The laughing on camera isn't necessarily about like a vanity aspect of it. For me, the laughing on camera is quite literally, laughter is an involuntary action. And in that, you're like what Odell was saying, their emotions are all the same. Everybody has the same emotions. It's the triggers that are different.
Mhm.
So for certain characters, their sense of humor is different. So the trigger for that laughter has to come from what your partner is saying.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just don't fucking find that funny.
Right.
And I think then when I admit to myself, this shit ain't funny, I start to laugh. Then I start to laugh is when I'm like, this shit's not even funny. And then I find myself laughing at that.
We're talking about a circumstance where, for example, in a scene, the other character says, "Why are you laughing? That's not funny." You need to be laughing.
Exactly.
Forget everything.
Yeah.
You need to be laughing. Don't care how you reach. But what we're talking about is how you honestly laugh, right? How you being honest about not fake laughing, because you want to do good work, is how you get there. How you get to true laughter, it's a very tricky path. It's a very difficult to achieve. People think, oh, that's just laugh.
That makes me laugh. When people are like, just laugh, I'm like, okay. Okay. What are you talking about, guy? What are we talking about here? That's like saying you're 5'1", dunk. Go ahead and dunk.
Just
dunk for me. Yeah, just dunk.
I've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it too.
Why can't you just do it?
Yeah, that's like, when I hear people talk, bro, and one of my, and I'm gonna circle back in a second, but one of my favorite pieces of direction is whenever a director's like, man, just be funnier here, just be funnier.
I will have this face.
Bro, that's why Entourage cracks me up, man. When
oh, bro,
when
Johnny Drama,
when he's just like trying to audition, and they're like, can you do it more like this? And he's just like, what do you mean? Am I not good enough? Like,
it's like that one Jessica Chastain SNL sketch that it's with Jimmy Fallon, and she's like auditioning. He's like, oh, hi. And I think it's like 3 lines. He's like, okay, great, so let's just see what you got. So she does it. He was like, wow, that was great, and I think she's like a nurse, I don't fucking remember, but he goes, so this time do it where like you're cute but you're sexy. Okay, so do it like where you're cute but you're sexy. And she's like, okay. And then it's like, and then he keeps on going, and it gets even more and more crazy and ludicrous. He's like, okay, now you're hot, like you're physically hot, like you're sweating hot, but you're also sexy. Okay, now do it where you're allergic to, you have an allergy, but you're sexy. It's like all these, it's the craziest fucking directions sometimes. And I mean, the best directors that I've had have always not told me what emotional response they want me to have. Rather, they give me an actionable way to get there. So they'll be like, put this motherfucker in his place. Put him in his place. When somebody says that, I'm like, I understand. I got it. I can do that. Or if they say, this is the only, you need to literally get him to go with you. Toma, easy, done. I know.
It's more of like they're more results oriented.
No, it's more actions.
Yeah,
it's not about the result. It's more about the action that you need to do, because then by proxy of you doing that, the other person's going to resist you. So if the other person resists, like I say, we need to go, and the other person's like, I ain't going, that immediately creates a very rudimentary conflict. And not
result oriented, more of like, we need to get to this response, so do this. So
I think
instead of like laugh, you're like, why do I have to laugh like this? We don't know.
The director knows what the result has to be, right? The best directors know, I got to get to this point, right? Now, how we get there is that's where that magic happens as a director. It's like, okay, we need to get to this part. We're over here. There's a gap here. What's the bridge? What's the bridge going to be? Now, a bridge could be fucking different. A bridge could be like whatever the fuck you want it to be because of the different people that are there. Some people need to just lay a log down and teeter-totter. Other people need to build the bridge, whatever. The point is, the director does not necessarily tell you, we need, I need you to be more scared. Okay? It's
a
something
good director will not say that.
Correct. Yeah. A good director will not say that. A good director will tell you more along the lines. It's more of a moment. moment to moment rather than it being the end of it, because he knows what the end response is going to be there. But a good director also allows you the freedom to get there. They just give you, it's like a shepherd, bro. It's giving you direction rather than telling you that's what I need. And then they get out of the fucking way and let you get there. That's to me a good director, right? So when somebody tells me put him in his fucking place, he needs the other person to feel inferior. That's the story that they're trying to tell, because it was through the other character's perspective in this particular scene that I'm thinking about. They're telling the story through the other character's perspective, not mine. I was just a tool to get the story moving along. So the other character needs to feel inferior. If I'm putting him in his place, he then has the ability to react to me putting him in his place. Therefore, he's going to feel less than, right? So then that is clear in the story that they're telling. He didn't tell me we need this character to feel inferior. So can you make him feel inferior? I don't know how to do that. But he told me put him in his place. Then I know what to do. He's like, treat him, this character, he's being like a little fucking bitch, bro. Put him in his place. Treat him like a fucking child. Great. I
needed to hear this. Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
For the longest, I was trying to be like, not to say like that, but I felt like my creative conscience was telling me for the longest when I made music to, well, you were saying initially, like, I want you to just be funnier.
Yeah.
So my conscience was like, because I had no direction, no like intentional direction, was like basically saying,
Interesting point.
that you just like
you just completely broke out. You just completely okay. So you said my conscience was literally telling me like that's where he stopped.
Am I good now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah. That's where he stopped.
Where my conscience was saying, make people feel happy, or make people feel. Am I frozen again?
No. Well, I want you to start. I want you to start from here. Yes, continue.
Happy. Or just or very vague in a sense where it's like feel something.
Yes.
But it's like now I realize my older self is telling me my child self now, and you kind of brought it to light to myself, and it's like solidified it, is put people in their place, but like more so like make that person that's sitting down drinking, having small talk with someone, listen to your song and move their hips. Or move their shoulders, or move their head. Not so much of like get people moving, but that's so vague.
Yeah, because you don't know. You don't know how people are going to translate what you are doing in their own mind. So you cannot get to their end result before them. You can only create a pathway for them to interpret whatever happens. That's why some writers don't write an end to a movie, and they just black out.
And it hurts, and like that hurt me a lot too with certain shows that do that. But then later on, you love them for that.
Yeah, black out. Interpret yourself. What does that do? It gives the person, the audience, the opportunity to imagine. And what we want is power. What do you want? Power of choosing. Everybody wants this power of choosing, right? You want to work, you want to create financial independence so that you can choose. So that you can choose multiple times a day, whatever the fuck you want to choose. People that have made money, they speak on that they want to buy their time back. They don't want to do the dishes because they want to pay somebody, not because they are so high and mighty, it's because they want that time back, so that I can go do something else. What I really want to do. I don't relate to that because in a weird way, I find peace cleaning dishes.
Me too, bro. Me too.
But sometimes I'm cleaning dishes and I'm just so present cleaning the dishes that I can't relate to that. But for example, doing laundry, I will happily hire somebody to do laundry.
I think what I took from that though is what you were saying. To get yourself to do what you really want to do, like cut deeper. Like I was saying earlier, like I was talking to my cousin last night. We were in the parking lot, whatever. We had just eaten dinner and stuff, and he like gives me feedback on music because I'm making a lot of house music right now. And he's like, I see what you're kind of doing with your music now. You're being more intentional, but this is not a question to ask like you're not being intentional. I see you're being intentional. So now you really have to ask yourself, what do you want to do with your music? But what do you want the result to be? And I said, this is gonna sound corny, but I want people to move their colito. Because there's different types of music. There's music that you go like this. There's music you go like this. But I'm like, I told him I just want to see a bunch of chiquitas move their cadera, you know, not even like twerk or nothing, but
Right.
so I think it's like to harp on that is intention and like, but like grab a steak knife and stab yourself 4 layers deep instead of one, because then it really is gonna like resonate. And that's to kind of come back of like what you're saying, Isaac, with the director. Instead of him telling you what the result is, it's more of cut deeper into the moment, into a more on a micro level, and that'll solve the macro of like put that person in their place.
Yeah.
And then that'll get the train rolling on the train tracks.
Yeah.
Instead of telling someone, I need this train to go west. No, I need you to make a 45-degree turn right here so everybody on the train feels us going west.
Right. And if the director were to tell, for instance, Odell that same note, the way that he would do it would be different than the way I would do it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where
the beauty in it.
That's where, like what he was saying, you open up a path to allow somebody to go in that path, but then you allow them to go in that path. You don't hold their hand and tell them to do it. Whereas some directors, now again, this is all very general. Like if you're fucking doing a specific type of movie that you need somebody to literally use their pinky for something because it's for the story, that's different, right? But I'm talking more so on a more general basis. If you allow for an artist to interpret, that's the whole point of why you're hiring an actor. Okay, especially on a film set. Film is really the director's medium because you're telling the story through hopefully that director's point of view. You know, not necessarily a bunch of suits, which happens a lot, but it is what it is. That's why you see a lot of things that are just kind of rinse and repeat because they know people are going to consume it, right? But then you have shows like Succession, which I personally love, or you have shows like Ted Lasso. You have certain things that are a little different because they're, you know, told through the freedom of that director. Anyways, stage is more of the actor's medium in terms of you don't have a director there saying cut. There are a lot of things you have to hit again, obviously, but you have kind of more freedom there. Anyways, the point that I'm trying to make is that shepherding, you open up the path and you just shepherd them, but you don't hold their hand. You allow for artists to freely interpret. And that's when magic happens. I think I've heard Scorsese talk about this. I might be mixing him up with another one, but he's like, why else would I hire an actor? I mean, that's, you know, I tell them the things that they need to hear, but I don't tell them what to do every single time. That's the point of having an actor, right? That's what you need them to do, type of thing.
It's
aside from like when Bernthal slapped the shit out of Jonah Hill for Wolf of Wall Street. That's another great story when Bernthal slapped the shit out of him. But bro,
I've watched interviews with Scorsese though, and like his movies to me can be the creative process to me. I'm thinking this got to be complex, like the way his mind thinks. But then I saw an interview with him, and he was just very cut and dry. Like
he just says his job is to solve problems. He's like, that's what a director's job is, because people come up to you and they go, which one do you want? Which watch do you like? Which one do you want? Do you like this one? Do you like that one? Sidney Lumet, one of the greatest directors of all time. He has a really great book called, I think it's called On Making Movies. I have it in this room over here. And it's a beautiful, super plain, dry explanation to people that don't make movies on how movies are made. And he literally goes, I just solve problems all day. That's all I do. I'm just a problem solver. So people are like, oh, we only have $500 left, but this shot's going to cost $3,000. What do you think? And he goes, well, just hold it. Don't get rid of the crane. Just hold it. And they're like, just hold it. He goes, yeah. And then Robert Rodriguez, for instance, when he had no money, when he made it Mariachi, he wanted like a dolly shot, but he didn't have money for a dolly. So he literally just put the camera on a skateboard and he just filmed it on a skateboard. And that's how he got the sense of movement for that movie, was by shooting shit on skateboards. People, it's all about creatively solving problems within a certain set of parameters. At least that's what I've heard from many directors talk is that. And again, I just think that going back to kind of what we were talking about with silence, Javier Bardem talked about this. He goes, on a movie set, some people think I'm a tyrant sometimes because when a scene is not going right and I can't seem to be getting what I need, I don't need more people talking. I don't need more people telling me what to do. I don't need that. That doesn't help me. I need people to stop talking. That's where I find the answer is in silence. I don't find it in more people telling me. I need to stop, quiet. So I'll literally tell everybody, hey, everybody, can we just stop for 2 minutes? Everybody just stop moving, stop talking, please, just for 2 minutes. And he talks about Penelope Cruz being the same way too. So he goes, sometimes they think that we're tyrants, but it's because silence is one of the greatest gifts to an actor. And a movie set is anything but silent. There are fucking people talking, smoking cigarettes. We're losing light, but we gotta go. It's unbelievably insane on a movie set, right? So he goes, silence is one of those key things that really grounds me. That's why I was asking you that what you do in order to, when you're not really feeling something, how do you get to the point where you are necessarily feeling it? Because that was something that struck me. Him and then Matthew McConaughey. I heard this when I was young. He was like, when you're a young actor, you come up and you want to hit a home run every time. You want to get up to bat and you want to hit a home run, right? And some days you come up and you have 15 different ways to just do it. And then some days you're just trying to prevent from telling a lie. So I figured as I got older, you just need to get on base. You don't have to hit a home run. You can bunt, you can walk, just get on base. That's the only thing that matters, right? Because he's like, sometimes you can fucking do this inside, outward, upside down. You know what to do. But other times you don't fucking know what to do. So as I've gotten older, I've been figuring out more in my process how to just kind of like, if I don't know what to do, I just go back to listening and responding. That's it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it, the basis of it.
Yeah.
You boys, we've been doing this for 3.5 hours.
I can eat. I can.
Yeah, let's. I think we should wrap it. Wrap it up. So Odell, thank you for being here, bro. Thank you a million mil veces. De verdad, gracias por tu tiempo. Thank you for everything, for your wisdom,
went
dude.
by so fast too, because
It was awesome.
3-hour podcast, and I always wonder, man, how do people just do that much time? But when it works and it's a conversation, it's just time just passes. We have cracked the time.
No, I don't get what you're saying though. Say it again. Say it so it makes more sense. Say
cracked cold.
That's so fucking
But
funny, bro.
is it we cracked the code of time, or is it we cracked?
No, we cracked.
Damn.
The code.
That's so stupid. That's so good.
Try to make it a thing now, but it's not to define yourself, because the last person I asked this to on our podcast, they were like, I don't want to define myself. I was like, no, it's not defining. It's just more of like in the moment, just a very silly question.
Yeah.
So your name, you say, my name is Odell and I feel like blank.
Okay. My name is Odell and I feel like we're making progress. I don't want to define myself.
It was funny because the last podcast, like that was kind of one of the pillars of conversations we had, where the person we interviewed, he was like, I don't want to define myself. And it was very enlightening to not put yourself in a box. And then my dumbass asked that question at the end. And then he was
was so funny. It was perfect.
I just told you I don't want to define myself. I was like, no.
With one word. Why would it be?
Because then I told him, I was like, no. It's more so of like, hey, my name is X and I feel happy, or I feel tired, or I feel excited, or whatever you want to say.
It was perfect. Bro, what's the name of your book? Let's just plug your shit right now. This is your time. Plug your shit, your socials, whatever.
In Spanish is mi gigantesco ego in Spanish. And in social media is Odel HC on everything. Yeah.
So you wrote this book in
Toma.
Spanish.
Yes, we'll soon have the English version. It will be a different book, but it will be kind of going off from that book. So
Anywhere we can find it at the moment, like digitally or anything?
the Spanish version in Amazon.
Okay.
Is it a print? Can we get it printed or is it okay, cool. So it's
You can get
ebook
a
and print.
paperback. You can get a
Yeah.
paperback or a Kindle version.
Perfect.
We'll put the link in the bio of this episode. I always
Bro,
wanted to say that.
This was dope. Check the link in the bio of this episode. Dude, thank you, man. This was awesome.
honestly,
Much
bro.
love to you guys. Many blessings. God bless you both.
It's not goodbye. It's see you later.
See you later.
This is the Café con Podcast.